Chapter 2186. Third person? Yi Qing Luo's hand paused. She squinted her eyes and released her senses. Other than this man who looked like an immortal, she didn't sense any other presence. She couldn't sense any presence, so there were only two results. 1. There was only her and Hall Master in this room. 2. The third person's ability surpassed her by more than one profound grade. Yi Qing Luo could totally eliminate the first possibility. Old man Song wouldn't lie to her, nor would he joke about such things. Then, there was only the second possibility. The third person's ability was definitely higher than her by one profound grade. That's right, profound grade. She was now an Earth profound grade cultivator. That third person's profound grade was the lowest, which was above Earth profound, which was a legend. Legend had it that he would turn into 15 grades. Virtuous profound grade cultivator. Such a powerful person. Why would he hide in a corner of this bedroom? Did Hall Master know about it or not? What's the matter? Hall Master raised his eyes as his gaze deepened. Yi Qing Luo put down the teacup. I'm here not to ask for a cup of tea. What's the matter that Hall Master is looking for me for? Please tell me clearly. She didn't intentionally mention the third person in the room, but pretended not to notice anything as she spoke calmly. Envoy forgot to tell you earlier, Heavenly Academy's Guiyu and Ghost Doctor have already said that if I don't return safely from the Ancestral Hall within a short period of time, they will immediately bring their men and charge into the Ancestral Hall. Her pink lips rose into a radiant smile. I believe Hall Master doesn't wish for the enchantment which you have meticulously set up to be broken, and the peace which Hall Master has been wanting for a long time, and the days of not bothering about worldly affairs will also come to an end. Every single word she said was extremely incisive. It sounded as though she was thinking for heavenly profound palace for Hall Master, but obviously she was threatening Hall Master. Upon hearing this, a calm smile appeared on the hall leader's handsome face. His cold eyes were fixated on Yi Qing Luo's radiant smile. After looking at each other for some time, he opened his mouth. You're observant, indeed. There's no need to observe at all. As long as you use your brain a little, you'll be able to think of it. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Hall Lord is the balance force of the Heavenly Academy, but what the director had done for so many years, Hall Lord should be clear about it. The palace master raised his teacup and took a sip. Then he smiled faintly and said, Are you complaining to me? No. Yi Qing Luo wasn't that senseless to complain about the director. Hall Master is looking for me. It shouldn't be because of the director's matter, right? The Temple Lord leaned lazily on the back of the soft chair. The Heavenly Academy has produced an outstanding student and is hailed as the heroine of the West Continent and even the Nirvana realm. As the Temple Lord of the Heavenly Palace, I naturally want to meet you, the heroine. Yi Qing Luo was not alarmed by the favor or humiliation as she looked at him with a smile. Let me remind Hall Master that your time is running out. The palace master's hand froze. His peripheral vision glanced at Yi Qing Luo, as though he was investigating the truth of Yi Qing Luo's words. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she returned a radiant smile. As expected of a heroine. With such a temperament, she is indeed worthy of the title heroine. The palace master laughed out loud. Yi Qing Luo could tell. He was ridiculing her for thinking too highly of herself. Chapter 2187. Upper Profound Palace. Lord's laughter slowly came to a stop. His apathetic gaze, this time, was seriously scrutinizing the young lady in front of him. It was simply unimaginable. Such a young lady. She was actually able to deal with him so calmly under his intentionally flamboyant aura. This young lady wasn't afraid of him, not afraid of his identity, even though she knew that his ability was way above hers. What gave her the confidence to be so sure that he wouldn't hurt her? If Yi Qing Luo knew what the palace lord was thinking about, She would definitely roll her eyes at the palace lord. Whatever imposing aura, it wouldn't scare her at all. One must know that under Dmo Xian's powerful aura, she directly held him hostage and laid her hands on him. What else was there for her to be afraid of? After a moment of silence, the palace lord finally gave up and put down the teacup in his hand. "Miss Yi, you're really an unfathomable young lady." Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly. "Palace lord, don't fall in love with me. Don't forget that you said that you're not after my beauty." Ha ha ha. The palace lord laughed out once again. He looked at Yi Qing Luo's eyes and said word by word, "Miss Yi, do you want to know your background?" Background? Yi Qing Luo's smile froze. "What do you mean?" "Regarding your background. This palace lord happens to know a little." The palace lord propped his chin leisurely as he looked at her with a smile which didn't look like a smile. "After this palace lord found out about your background, I really wanted to tell you about this, so I specially summoned you to Upper Profound Palace." Ah. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. She stared at the palace lord's face, trying to see if what he said was true or false. But she totally couldn't tell what the palace lord's expression meant. Her background? The palace lord knew about her background? What on earth did he know that made him specially appear in Heavenly Academy, requesting to meet her in public? The palace lord squinted his cold eyes as he looked deeply at her and said word by word, "In your body there is a divine phoenix profound heart jade, am I right?" His words made Yi Qing Luo's heart thumped. On the surface, she pretended to be puzzled as she fluttered her long eyelashes. "Divine phoenix profound heart jade? What is that?" "I won't tell you what it is." The palace master chuckled. "In short, according to this profound heart jade, you can find your birth parents." He paused for a moment, then suddenly propped himself up and pressed his fingers against his chin, closing the distance between them. "Oh, yes, I forgot to tell you, if you want to find your biological parents, you have to go to the upper realm." Yi Qing Luo frowned. "What are you trying to say?" "I'm just reminding you that as a human from the lower realm, if you want to go to the upper realm, your strength must be promoted to the peak of the 3rd level of the Sage Profound realm and above. Only then can the historian of Heaven's Path verify the stability of your profound rank. Then the historian of Heaven's Path can bring you to the upper realm." The palace master smiled again. "However, with your current aptitude, if you're lucky, 5 or 10 years would be possible for you to reach the Sage Profound realm. If you're unlucky, it might be 50 or 100 years. So what's the second way?" Yi Qing Luo didn't beat around the bush with him. Since the palace master had already made it so clear, there was no need for her to hide her intention of going to the upper realm. But she absolutely could not let anyone know about the divine phoenix profound heart jade. The second way. Chapter 2188. Yi Qing Luo's back stiffened. The third person in the room, the one whom she couldn't detect, was right behind her. She suppressed the urge to turn her head and examine, not revealing her inner panic on her face. The only thing she could confirm was that the hall master and the third person definitely knew each other. But why didn't the third person show himself? Why must he hide in the room? Whether he was a friend or foe, she wasn't sure. She could only pretend to be calm, trying her best not to alert the enemy. "Miss Yi need not be nervous. The second method which I mentioned may be difficult for ordinary people, but if it's Miss Yi, it should be. As compared to the first method, it should be easier." Hall Master smiled slightly. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips pursed slightly. This Hall Master of Upper Profound Palace's observational ability was indeed incredible. She was extremely confident in the subject of camouflage. But Hall Master could still see some clues. He could tell that she was nervous at that moment. The powerhouses outside of Nirvana Realm were so powerful that it made her excited. It also made her have the thought of rushing to the upper realm. Even if there wasn't any background, it pointed to the upper realm. She would definitely head to the upper realm. because the power in Nirvana realm, even if she stood on the peak, she would not be satisfied. What she wanted was to become even stronger. The road to the strong was endless, only to limit herself to Nirvana realm. That would be too unambitious. Yi-Ching Luo took a deep breath as she completely calmed down her emotions in her heart. Her lips curled upwards as she smiled sweetly. Hall Master has been keeping me in suspense. After all, this is a secret which basically no one in the entire Nirvana realm knows about. Hall Master propped his chin as he sized Yi-Ching Luo up. So, what does Hall Master want? He had been keeping her in suspense because he wanted to get the corresponding exchange item from her, which was the real reason why Hall Master specially summoned her to Upper Profound Palace. Hall Master looked at Yi-Ching Luo as he said, word by word, "What I want is very simple. After saying this, you will sit in this bedroom alone." 1 hour later. Alone? Sit for 1 hour? Was there something wrong with this Hall Master's brain? What kind of request was this? Or does the Palace Master have some other scheme? Or perhaps the Palace Master was giving the third person in the room a chance to make a move on her? You don't have to worry. This Palace Master will not seek trouble. Although the Ghost Doctor and Gueyu are not as powerful as this Palace Master, but if we really fight, this Palace Master will not be able to gain any advantage. Hall Master seemed to have seen through Yi-Ching Luo's guess as he added another sentence. As for the motive, you don't need to ask any further. Even if she asked, he might not answer. An hour? Counting it, there was still an hour before the agreed time with Ghost Doctor and Old Man Gueyu. Wasn't it just sitting here by himself? It was a good opportunity for her to see what the Palace Master's motive was. She nodded. All right. The Hall Master revealed a smile, as though he had long guessed that Yi-Ching Luo would agree. He did not beat around the bush and said bluntly, there is another way, and that is to collect the 4 sacred beast pearls. Once you have collected all the sacred beast pearls, you will be able to open the portal to the upper realm. Sacred beast pearl? Yi-Ching Luo recalled the 2 growing sacred beasts in her pet space. This sacred beast pearl. How do I get it? Could it be? This sacred beast pearl was hidden in the 4 great sacred beasts' bodies? She had to kill the sacred beasts before she could obtain the sacred beast pearl? Chapter 2189. Hall Master who saw through Yi-Ching Luo's imagination. This young lady's imagination was simply too wild. When did he say that he wanted to kill the sacred beast to obtain the sacred beast bead? Hall Master's lips twitched slightly as he patiently tried his best to finish his words. As for where the sacred beast bead is and how to obtain it, there's someone who can answer you. Who? Yi-Ching Luo frowned. Hall Master remained silent for a moment and suddenly asked another topic. Miss Yi, Devil class, which you are in, seems to be the champion of this year's interclass competition, right? Yes. Hall Master smiled. In the interclass competition, the class who obtains the champion will have the chance to enter the class of gods to undergo their special training. What has this got to do with the sacred beast bead? Yi-Ching Luo expressed that Hall Master's train of thought floated too fast, and she couldn't keep up. Hall Master mysteriously leaned back on the soft chair. Of course it has something to do with it. Whatever you want to know, there's a student in the class of gods who knows it best. Furthermore, she also knows the precise location of the sacred beast bead. Who is it? Yi-Ching Luo somehow felt that she was being led by the nose. Go there and you'll naturally know. After Hall Master finished his words, he suddenly stood up. A loose, bamboo-colored robe rolled down like a waterfall from 1,000 miles away. All right, the second method this Hall Master has already told you. Then, now please abide by the request that you've promised me and sit here alone. This Hall Master still has some matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Yi-Ching Luo. What was he trying to do? She heaved a heavy sigh as she raised her head and looked at him seriously. Hall Master, Aren't you afraid that I'll tear down your bedroom? You won't have that chance, and you won't have that time. Hall Master calmly threw down the sentence and really walked out of the bedroom without any intention of turning back. No chance. No time. Where did his confidence come from? If she really wanted to tear down this bedroom, could he stop her? But Hall Master's words obviously didn't mean this. The chance and time that he mentioned must have another meaning. In her mind, a thought formed. In the bedroom, there was a deathly silence. Yi-Ching Luo restrained the deep look in her eyes as she stared at the untouched teacup on the table. Her consciousness was calling out to Old Man Song. Old Man Song, is there anyone else in the bedroom other than me? Old Man Song quickly replied, yes, the third person is still in the room. As expected, a cold glint flashed past Yi-Ching Luo's eyes. Her pink lips curled up slightly as she placed one hand on the mahogany table. Her index finger lightly clasped together. The rhythmic sound was like one thunderclap after another, striking down. This strange atmosphere continued for a while. The girl's unique and sweet voice echoed in the sleeping chamber. Sir, I don't have much time left. If you insist on hiding in the dark and remain silent, then please let me leave. Her voice reverberated faintly in the empty space. Ethereal and ethereal, clear and pleasant to the ear. There was still silence in the bedroom. Yi-Ching Luo's fingers paused. Then she stood up without hesitation and walked towards the entrance of the sleeping chambers. Whoosh! A gust of air current struck and blocked in front of Yi-Ching Luo. The air current landed on the ground beside Yi-Ching Luo's feet, and instantly the ground cracked. Yi-Ching Luo lowered her eyes to look at the broken hole as her lips twitched in ridicule. Can't hold it in any more. In the bedroom, the air was fluctuating. Yi-Ching Luo's naked eye could clearly see the profound qi ripples in the air, like waves of turbulent waves. Chapter 2190. Yi-Ching Luo narrowed her eyes, but her legs didn't move. Yi-Ching Luo, how did you know? I'm here. The youth's cold voice had a hint of evil in it. This familiar voice made Yi-Ching Luo's petite body stiffen slightly. She frowned and quickly turned around. Behind him stood a young man in a crimson robe. His extraordinarily handsome face was the kind of unique charm that could attract all eyes the moment he appeared. But when the line of sight fell on his body, his entire body was emitting an ice-cold aura, causing others to not dare to approach him, to not dare to profane him. His ink-like hair was tied loosely with a silk ribbon of the same color as the one he was wearing. Occasionally, a few strands of hair would fall in front of his forehead, but it didn't diminish his elegance in the slightest. Instead, it softened the cold lines on his face. Looking at it, it was no longer so cold that it made people feel like they were digging into their bones. When Yi-Ching Luo saw the young man's face clearly, the expression on her face turned slightly chilly. Noticing the change in Yi-Ching Luo's expression, the young man's brows creased tightly. He could tell that Yi-Ching Luo didn't want to see him. The young man's aura also froze. A cold glint flashed in his pitch-black eagle eyes, as if he wanted to freeze her completely. He stared at Yi-Ching Luo and suddenly lifted his leg, walking towards her. The crimson robe rolled along with his footsteps, like raging flames. It looked like a moving block of ice walking on fire. This was obviously out of place, but on him, there wasn't any sense of incongruity at all, making Yi-Ching Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. She pursed her lips and said unhappily, Zhu Wuxin, why are you here? Wasn't this person in front of him, Zhu Wuxan? Why was he here? He was the third person in the bedroom. What was his relationship with the hall master? It was me. I asked Archer to borrow the identity of the upper profound hall to summon you here. Zhu Wuxan didn't deny it, as his serene cold eyes looked at Yi-Ching Luo calmly. Archer? That was the name of the hall master, right? Calling him so intimately, he and the palace master were indeed good friends. What exactly do you want to do? Yi-Ching Luo, didn't like the feeling of being schemed against. She had already made it clear to Zhu Wuxin previously at the Three Springs sect. Why was Chu Wuxin still pestering him? To actually use such a method, Zhu Wuxan closed in step by step, as he walked right in front of Yi Qing Luo, as the tip of his shoe touched the tip of her shoe. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased as she lowered her eyes to look at his foot, which was pressing against the tip of her shoe. Zhu Wuxan, don't you feel that you're very childish? She did not retreat in fright as Zhu Wuxin had expected. Instead, she was expressionless. No, to be more accurate, she was looking up at him with a hint of annoyance. The distance between them was so close that they could still feel each other's breath. The two red robes also overlapped with each other, appearing to be a perfect fit. All Zhu Wuxin had to do was take a step forward. His kiss could fall on her face. Their eyes met, both calm. I don't think so. Zhu Wuxin's cold voice was emotionless. Yi Qing Luo sneered. Then do you think there's any meaning in your pestering behavior? Yes, he answered calmly. Yi Qing Luo, what's the point? Interesting person, he seemed to be the only one. Zhu Wuxian's deep gaze was fixed on her as his voice was chilly. I've said this before, unless you die. Otherwise I will not let you off. He enunciated each and every word clearly. Chapter 2191. Yi Qing Luo only had one thought in her mind right now. Damn it, this Zhu Wuxian was really sick. And it was the kind that was seriously sick. Zhu Wuxian indifferently bent over as a scorching hot breath splashed onto Yi Qing Luo's face with a swoosh. It was different from Mo Xian's elegant sandalwood fragrance. Zhu Wuxian's body had an extremely light plum fragrance. The smell wasn't unpleasant, but Yi Qing Luo, who wasn't used to other men getting so close to her, couldn't help but frowned. She raised her hand and flipped her palm, holding the glower flame fan's handle as she pressed it against Zhu Wuxian's chest. Step back. Zhu Wuxian's brows drooped as he squinted at that exquisite fan handle on his chest. Following that, he continued to press down on her expressionlessly. An unfamiliar man's presence instantly enveloped her entire body. Yi Qing Luo's eyes congealed. You think I don't dare to make a move on you? Yi Qing Luo, you won't. Zhu Wuxian's cold tone was extremely certain as he spoke. His deep eyes stared at Yi Qing Luo's furious face without blinking. I know you won't. Yi Qing Luo's bellyful of anger, not knowing why, when she met Zhu Wuxian's eyes, it inexplicably dissipated. She lowered her head as her slender fingers clenched slightly. Her curly long lashes, under her charming eyes, projected an arc-shaped shadow. Why was his gaze so firm? As though he understood her very well. But Yi Qing Luo had to admit, what he said was right. She wouldn't really make a move on Zhu Wuxian, no matter if it was on account of the original owner Shao Qing Luo and Zhu Wuxian's relationship, and it was on account of the few times he had risked his life to save her. She owed Zhu Wuxian too many favors. If she really made a move on Zhu Wuxian, she wouldn't be a human. Yi Qing Luo clenched her fists tightly as she took a deep breath and took the lead to retreat a few steps, widening the distance between her and Zhu Wuxian. What on earth do you want? To make you fall in love with me again, Zhu Wuxian replied calmly. Yi Qing Luo was dumbstruck. After some time she regained her senses and met Zhu Wuxian's extremely resolute gaze as she spoke seriously. I've never loved you before, not to mention again. Yes. Zhu Wuxian stared at her, as stubborn as a child. Yi Qing Luo, no matter how you deny it, the matter of you and I pledging to be married privately is a fact. In his mind, the scene of Shao Qing Luo and Chu Wuxian privately pledging to be together appeared. Yi Qing Luo gritted her teeth, so hard that they almost broke. At that time, Qing Luo was only 10 years old. What private pledge of marriage? It didn't count at all. Was Chu Wuxin abducting an underage child? In her time, he would be sentenced. Outside, you will always be accompanied by the dark guards arranged by that guy. My words will be relayed to that guy through the dark guards' mouths. I want to be alone with you. Just the two of us. We won't be disturbed, and we won't be watched. Zhu Wuxin stared at her with a rare seriousness in his eyes. Yi Qingluo was stunned. Was he talking about Tang Beiyuan? Had Zhu Wuxin already discovered Tang Beiyuan's existence in the Yuqi clan's courtyard? He knew that Tang Beiyuan would pass his news to Dmo Xian. Was that why he chose to leave? Did his words mean that Tang Beiyuan had no way to follow him into the upper profound hall? There's only you and me here. Zhu Wuxian's lips curled into an extremely shallow arc. Chapter 2192. Yi Qingluo. He was certain that his good friend Che wasn't cheating his teammate. Such a blind idea. Zhu Wuxian still felt that it was useful. Have a seat. Zhu Wuxian saw Yi Qingluo still standing at the original spot, her features twitching as he opened his mouth. I will try my best to be gentle. If you don't like anything, I will change. Grabbed a big grass? Had Zhu Wuxian taken the wrong medicine? Just a moment ago, he was still arrogant and cold, feeling that he wasn't childish and felt that his actions were very interesting. The next moment, he had turned into a warm man, although his expression was still as cold as ice, without a single warm feeling. But to be able to say such words like, if you don't like it, I will change. To Zhu Wuxian, this was absolutely considered as warm. Yi Qingluo, I asked you to sit down. Zhu Wuxian thought that he was warm, to the extent that he couldn't bear to look at her. But that woman was still standing there in a daze, not even looking at him. After being bellowed by Zhu Wuxian, Yi Qingluo suddenly regained her senses as she turned her head to look at Zhu Wuxian. Her body instinctively sat back on the soft chair. Drink some tea. Zhu Wuxian frowned as he grabbed a teacup from the table and poured a cup of tea for Yi Qingluo. He even conveniently took away the teacup which was previously poured by the hall master. Yi Qingluo expressed that this way of his, would it really make a lady have a good impression towards him? Anyway, she definitely wouldn't. Yi Qingluo once again felt that. Upper Profound Palace Hall Master was a scumbag who had the ability to cheat his teammates. Outside the door, a certain hall master who was ridiculed by Yi Qingluo felt his nose itching. He took a look at the tightly shut bedroom door, and with a flash, he was already one hall away from the bedroom. After he was sure that he was far enough away, the palace master leaned against a glazed pillar and sneezed a few times in a row. He rubbed his nose as he had a faint feeling of sneezing. Looks like that lass is scolding you. Suddenly, a clear and melodious voice was heard from behind. When the hall master heard that, his brows rose as he laughed. This hall master thought that you had already gone back. You tricked Wuxian like this. If Wuxian knew, how would she treat you? The woman smiled faintly. The palace master's cold eyes narrowed slightly. I'm obviously helping him. Otherwise, how would he have the chance to be alone with Lady Yi? The woman chuckled, but there was no meaning hidden in her laughter. The palace master glanced in the direction of the sleeping quarters and stretched. Don't worry, I won't favor one and discriminate against the other. I helped Wuxin trick Miss Yi into coming here. So naturally, I'll help you pass on what you want her to know. Hearing this, the woman's eyes flickered. She didn't stay any longer. With a turn, her figure merged into the air. Hey, you threw it away after using it. You didn't even say a word of thanks. Don't run. My sleeping chamber has been robbed, and I'm bored out of my mind. No matter how the palace master shouted behind him. He only had time to see a streak of icy blue flowing light turn into many afterimages and disappear in a flash. Inside the bedroom, the two of them sat facing each other, speechless, staring at each other. After a moment later, Yi Qing Luo couldn't take it anymore. Zhu Wu Xan. If there's nothing else, I'm going back to the academy. No way, I haven't finished drinking my tea. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's impatient look, Zhu Wu Xian's deep eyes dimmed slightly. Chapter 2193. No way. Zhu Wu Xian rejected her decisively as he looked at her without blinking. It's not time yet, I like to stay with you. His eyes were still as cold as ever, but Yi Qing Luo could sense it acutely. Under the icy coldness, there were hidden thick feelings. Her heart trembled fiercely. His cold attitude had also softened slightly. Zhu Wu Xian was serious towards her. Zhu Wu Xian saw that she wasn't sitting down, so he stood up as well. Yi Qing Luo, don't be unhappy. You originally belonged to me. Zhu Wu Xian said calmly, as his deep eyes gazed deeply at Yi Qing Luo. He looked at Yi Qing Luo for some time. Suddenly, he raised his hand, wiping away the tea stains on the corner of her lips. The man's calloused fingertips brushed past her lips. This action shocked Yi Qing Luo so much that she kept retreating. Her expression changed slightly as she used one hand to cover her skin which had been touched. Zhu Wu Xan, I've already told you many times. The past matters can only be in the past is the past. Moreover, who I belong to, it's not up to you to decide. Zhu Wu Xian's hand hung in midair. His fingers still had remnants of a lady's soft touch. His fingers trembled as he closed them slightly. By his ear was a young lady's sullen voice. Zhu Wu Xian's expression didn't change as he looked at her indifferently. Zhu Wu Xian, when I was 10 years old, I admit that I was very happy when I interacted with you. But that was merely happiness as a friend. I, Yi Qing Luo, was once the trash 7th Missy. After my mother passed away, there were only Ziling and Xiaoyu left in my life. You appeared at that time, becoming the 4th person in my life who treated me sincerely. Yi Qing Luo bit her lower lip tightly as her charming eyes locked onto Zhu Wu Xian. Today, she must make things clear to Zhu Wu Xian, no matter if Zhu Wu Xian could hear it or not. She still had to say what needed to be said. Zhu Wu Xian, under that kind of situation, the 10-year-old me, towards you, was just a kinship, a redeeming feeling. These have nothing to do with gender, nothing to do with sex. As for you, it's just because in so many years of bloody killings, it's rare to meet a little girl who is willing to take care of you, talk to you, and even show you the warmest smile. This is just your lonely heart playing tricks on you. What moved you was the me at that time, the warmth I gave you, not me. This was his opinion as a bystander of the memory. Actually, the two of us are very similar. Our tragic childhood caused us to want to give up everything to exchange for the slightest bit of warmth. We thought it was love, but in reality, even if it wasn't the other party, we would still be moved by this warmth. Zhu Wuxin, for each other, the best way is to be friends and family, isn't it? Zhu Wuxin's gaze gradually deepened. His eyes, which were like deep pools, were swirling with bottomless whirlpools. Beside his ear, he could hear her soft voice. He could tell that Yi Qing Luo was extremely serious when she said these words. Friends, family, Zhu Wuxin laughed out loud. His cold voice and laughter seemed to be stained with ice. As he smiled, the coldness seeped into her heart bit by bit. His smile made Yi Qing Luo stop her following words. But Yi Qing Luo, I don't need friends, nor do I need family. Zhu Wuxin's tranquil eyes didn't have a single ripple. Chapter 2194. His smile made Yi Qing Luo's heart tighten abruptly. She could tell he was serious. Other than death, she would not be able to escape from his entanglement. Yi Qing Luo stared at Zhu Wu Xian as her long eyelashes fanned. Her pink lips moved slightly as she wanted to speak. Zhu Wu Xian had already laughed without any hesitation. Yi Qing Luo, who do you think you are? Do you think that you can guess everyone's thoughts? who gave you the confidence to think that you are 100% able to guess my thoughts accurately. His words paused. Zhu Wuxian suddenly laughed lightly. His frosty brows curved into a curve from smiling. But that smile made one's heart turn cold. Or perhaps, only by lying to yourself in this way will you feel that you don't have that much guilt towards me. This sentence was like a sudden clap of thunder, exploding in Yi-Ching Luo's heart. Her body suddenly stiffened. But, Yi-Ching Luo, you don't let me live well. So how can I possibly let you put down the past, put down the promise you had made to me, and put down the guilt towards me? Zhu Wuxian's frozen eyes surged with a sliver of madness. Both his hands were propped on the mahogany table as he stared at Yi-Ching Luo's slightly astonished eyes, as he laughed word by word. You're not me, so how can you be so certain that I don't love you? Then, I'm telling you very seriously now. I want you to become my wife, and want to spend the rest of my life with you. This thought, ever since the first time I met you 5 years ago, till now. I have never stopped having this thought. Yi-Ching Luo's fingers unconsciously curled up. Her little actions were all seen by Zhu Wuxian. His dark eyes stared intently at her eyes. Why, are you flustered? Can't make up a whole set of reasons anymore? Zhu Wuxian. Yi-Ching Luo's heart trembled slightly as she stared at Zhu Wuxian's firm and deep black eyes. She didn't know what expression to use to deal with him. Not flustered. It wasn't that she couldn't continue with the main reason, but Zhu Wuxian's attitude caused her to lose confidence in her confident conjecture. Zhu Wuxian was smiling. His words were extremely ear-piercing, but Yi-Ching Luo could tell that in his smile, that thick bitterness. Zhu Wuxian was not someone who liked to smile. He had laughed countless times in front of her today, but that smile made one's heart ache. Moreover, although his words were meant to hurt her, but she could hear it. His words were full of thorns, and they were his true thoughts. She had always felt that the Zhu Wuxian back then was only greedy for the warmth given by Xiaoqing Luo. But now she couldn't be sure and even doubted her own guess. After some time, Yi-Ching Luo finally found her voice, and it was slightly hoarse. Zhu Wuxian in my heart. It's filled with one person, and it can't contain anyone else. If possible, we can become friends, brothers, and even relatives. Even if you force me to stay by your side, I can't give you the love you want. There are many ways to feel warmth, and there are also many kinds of feelings. Other than love, I can give you all kinds of feelings. She looked at Zhu Wuxian, her voice still hoarse. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Zhu Wuxian, you and I can become very good friends. Zhu Wuxian did not speak. He quietly waited for her to finish her words. Her face was reflected in his deep eyes. He could clearly see the sincerity in her eyes. Friends, brothers, relatives. What she gave was really a huge temptation. Chapter 2195. Silence lasted for a long time. Zhu Wuxian seemed to be hesitating. Yi-Ching Luo gazed deeply at him. Her eyes were filled with sincerity and tranquility. Finally, the man moved. His slender fingers, which were resting on the table, moved slightly. There was no joy or anger on the expression on his face, no emotions at all. A pair of icy cold eyes, quiet and serene, as though it was a whirlpool. Yi-Ching Luo's heart trembled fiercely for no reason, as though there was a thin needle slowly piercing through her heart. Yi-Ching Luo's hands, which were hanging by her sides, unknowingly curled up a little. Zhu Wuxian slowly stood up. Even though they were separated by a wooden table, Yi-Ching Luo could clearly sense the powerful pressure which Zhu Wuxian was emitting. Yi-Ching Luo, you know very well that what I want is not a friend. He looked at Yi-Ching Luo as he narrowed his icy cold eyes. His speed was very slow, and his tone was very indifferent. His thin lips raised slightly, revealing an extremely shallow but incomparably elegant smile. Yi Qing Luo's spine turned cold as she clenched her fists tightly, easing the uneasiness which was surging from the bottom of her heart as she looked at him. I don't need a friend, especially. I don't need a female friend. Zhu Wu Exen laughed. His laughter was very light, and his laughter was extremely ethereal. Yi Qing Luo, you are destined to be either enemies or lovers with me. Was he forcing her to choose the way they interacted in the future? They were either enemies or lovers. Her love could not tolerate any sand in it. She loved DMO Xian wholeheartedly, and no one else could step in. So she could only choose to become enemies with Zhu Wuexan? Why must Zhu Wuexan be so stubborn? Why must he stubbornly try to find back the past, trying to force someone who would not love him to be together with him? In this way, even if his forcefulness succeeded, would he really feel warm? Yi Qing Luo was unable to understand Zhu Wuexan's stubbornness. Wasn't a friend better than an enemy? I will give you time to consider. Zhu Wuexan's eyes were filled with frost as he spoke word by word without any emotions. The next time we meet, the relationship between us. You decide. Yi Qing Luo clenched her wide sleeves tightly. Time's up, you can leave now. Zhu Wuxin didn't stay any longer. He walked toward the tightly shut door of the sleeping chamber. He seemed to be running away from something. His pace was very fast. Not long later, he was standing at the entrance of the hall. He raised his hand to open the door. A young girl's voice suddenly came from behind him. Zhu Wuxin. She was calling his name. Something seemed to be spreading in Zhu Wuxin's heart. It was a kind of panic, a kind of fear. It was a strange feeling that he couldn't get used to. He was afraid that Yi Qing Luo would say out her answer now. The panicking Yi Qing Luo didn't even give him the last chance between them. He wanted to lift his leg and leave this sleeping chamber. However, the sound of her calling his name kept echoing in his ears. His body was stiff, unable to move. Zhu Wuexan, no matter what you think in your heart, I've always treated you as my friend. You saved me. You saved little you for me and Ling. Er's kindness. I remember it all clearly. As long as you don't lay a hand on the people around me, I will always treat you as my best friend. In my heart, there will always be a place for you. Yi Qing Luo stared at his back as she spoke in a hoarse voice. She paused for a moment, seeing that Zhu Wuexan didn't turn around, but didn't leave the sleeping chamber directly. Chapter 2196. I don't deny the existence of that period of warmth in the past, because that is a memory that belongs to the both of us. You're a very, very intelligent person, and you understand my character. And I believe that if I'm a fickle woman, to be able to love him and love you again, I believe that you will not have any other thoughts towards me. Zhu Wuexan's back was extremely tensed. The icy cold pupils and the swirl in his eyes started to churn ferociously. He used a huge amount of energy before he could control his own emotions. The hands under his sleeves were clenched tightly into fists as green veins popped out. He shut his eyes, and bit by bit, he suppressed that pent-up feeling in his chest. Suddenly, a crimson figure turned into an afterimage as he charged towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo was still waiting for Zhu Wuexan's reply. One shouldn't procrastinate over matters of the heart. She loved DMO Xian and would only be together with him. No matter who or what, there was nothing that could stop her from loving DMO Xian. So she didn't need any time to consider, because there was no need to consider. But the next moment, Yi Qing Luo's nose was filled with a rich plum fragrance. Before she could even react, her petite body was tightly held by an arm. His sturdy chest, along with an earth-shattering frost aura, directly pressed down on her. Yi Qing Luo's eyes widened as she was slightly stunned as she raised her hand to support her chest, which was pressing down. Zhu Wuexan! In this aspect, women seem to be innately unable to win against men. The man's strength was extremely huge. She couldn't struggle free at all. That icy cold qi seeped into her skin bit by bit. The familiar yet extremely unfamiliar plum fragrance, cold qi, enveloped her entire body. Yi Qing Luo's face turned slightly pale as she tried her best to calm herself down. Zhu Wu Xian wouldn't really do anything to her. Zhu Wu Xian wouldn't do anything to her if she wasn't willing. She believed in Zhu Wu Xian's character and also believed that Zhu Wu Xian valued little Qing Luo. But before Yi Qing Luo could brainwash herself to calm down, along with a breath without thinking, it directly pressed down on her with icy shards. Yi Qing Luo realized something as her pupils instantly expanded. The glower flame fan in her hands suddenly opened up as it swiftly attacked Zhu Wu Xian. She had only just begun to set sail. It was directly grabbed by Zhu Wuxin's palm. With a flip of his hand, the devouring flame fan landed in Zhu Wuxin's hand. Although the attack failed, but at least she stopped Zhu Wuxin from forcefully kissing her. Holding her breath, she struggled to free herself from his grasp. However, Zhu Wuxin tightened his grip. His frosty eyes stared coldly at her face as he said in a sinister voice, "You hate me to this extent. I only kissed you once, and you want my life. You call this treating me as a friend?" Yi Qing Luo was feeling slightly shocked, guessing what kind of realm Zhu Wu Xian's ability was at. Her perception was unable to detect Zhu Wuxin's presence. Her speed was not even half of Zhu Wu Xian's. If Zhu Wuxin really wanted to do something to her, she wouldn't even be able to resist. He was actually this strong. He was still shocked by Zhu Wuxin's strength. Suddenly, Zhu Wuxin's mocking voice rang in his ears. Yi Qing Luo's pupils dilated again. Why did she want his life? Her attack was only to stop him from acting recklessly. She didn't even use 10% of her strength, all right. You, friends wouldn't do such a thing. Moreover, I didn't want. Before she could say the words, your life. Chapter 2197. Either you die or I die. Yi Qing Luo's body turned cold. She remained silent for a moment and raised her head, meeting his emotionless eyes. Are you serious? Perhaps it was because of the oppressive atmosphere, or perhaps it was because of the confrontation between the both of them, as it stirred up a hurricane. The bedchamber, which was originally brightly illuminated by the luminous pearls, suddenly dimmed down. The entire sleeping chamber became dark. Zhu Wu Xian's face in the darkness couldn't be seen clearly, but Yi Qing Luo could feel the coldness in his eyes. He was serious. His stubbornness, his persistence. He had already set his mind on her. Indeed, in the darkness, the man's gloomy and icy cold voice was heard, right? Then, I'll tell you seriously, you and I will never be a couple. Yi Qing Luo's voice gradually turned cold. Her gaze was calm as it met Zhu Wu Xian's eyes. But the enemy that you mentioned, or you die or I die, I will not accept it. Saying that, Yi Qing Luo directly raised her hand and pushed the man who was just inches away. Other than Mo Xian's approach, she was unable to adapt to any other man. MN, of course. In her eyes, those little kids in Devil Class weren't considered as men. Yi Qing Luo walked towards the bedroom door. The man behind her didn't stop her. Yi Qing Luo opened the door. The light outside the door lit up the entire bedroom. A tall figure swayed and fell down from the door. Hey, why didn't you say anything when you opened the door? The man grumbled a few words as his tall figure staggered. He finally managed to regain his footing. Brushing his black hair, he raised his head and saw 2 pairs of eyes staring straight at him. Cough, cough, this hall master is just passing by. What kind of expression is that? Don't believe this hall master? The man couldn't take the pressure under the 2 pairs of eyes. This hall master is absolutely not eavesdropping. Yi Qing Luo took a look at the hall master as she calmly interrupted his explanation. How to leave this place? You're leaving now. Hall Master's cold eyes looked at Zhu Wu Exan for a moment, but seeing that he had no reaction, he could only look at Yi Qing Luo. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Don't you want to stay a little longer? Yi Qing Luo kept silent. The palace master frowned and looked at Zhu Wuxin. He realized that there was still no reaction from that fellow. He suddenly felt very tired. Why does it feel like the eunuch is anxious when the emperor is not? He racked his brains, trying to think of a way. Miss Yi, regarding the method to go to the upper realm, I can still explain it to you in detail. But actually, the class of God, you know less than me. It's almost time. Yi Qing Luo calmly interrupted his words. If Hall Master isn't worried that Master Ghost Doctor and Teacher Guei you would barge in, I don't mind staying behind to listen to Hall Master's detailed explanation of the method to head to the upper realm. The palace master helplessly glared at Zhu Wu Exin. That guy lowered his head, his whole body shrouded in a haze. The hall master was so anxious that he wanted to kick him. The woman Yuan Wu doesn't know how to keep her? Didn't they see that he couldn't hold him back any longer? Send her out. In the end, these were the words that the temple master had been waiting for. The palace master racked his brains. His persona of a banished immortal collapsed into Dubai. However, the person who caused him to collapse his persona just casually mentioned 4 words. The palace master's state of mind instantly exploded. Fine, this is what you said. Don't regret it. Saying that, he directly summoned the envoy, asking him to send Yi Qing Luo back. Yi Qing Luo stood at the entrance of the hall. Chapter 2198. Her pink lips moved slightly and her voice was cold. Chu Wuxin, if you change your mind, come and find me. After saying that, he followed behind the emissary and left without looking back. When Yi Qing Luo's figure followed the emissary and disappeared outside the enchantment, inside the bedroom, the youth who had been standing in the haze all this time suddenly seemed to have lost all his hostility, and his whole body went limp on the ground. The palace master was startled by the loud dong. He immediately walked to Zhu Wuxin's side and supported him with one hand. The rays of light shone through the open doors of the hall, clearly illuminating the young man's dispirited and helpless expression, as well as his bewilderment and helplessness. However, in the next instant, Zhu Wu Exan's expression had already recovered its icy coldness. He waved his arm and pushed the temple master away. Get out. I say, Wuxin, that woman doesn't know what's good for her. If you really like her, just snatch her. Why do you have to make yourself look like this? The palace master's expression was cold. This was the first time he had seen such an expression on Zhu Wuxin's face. I said, get out. Zhu Wuxin's tone became heavier. An icy cold intent flowed in the air. The palace master stared at Zhu Wuxin. The expression on his face became more and more unsightly. After a while, he snorted coldly, Fine, I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'll just let you fend for yourself here. What the hell am I trying to persuade you for? With a bang, the palace door was slammed shut. The young man, who was standing, fell to the ground again. He leaned against a glass pillar and raised his head slightly. His ice-cold eyes seemed to have a dense, watery glow. In his mind, the scenes of what happened with Yi Qing Luo in the broken courtyard of the Three Springs sect kept circling around. Following that, it was the current Yi Qing Luo and D.M.O. Xian's sweet loving scene. It was Yi Qing Luo's cold rejection again, that unwavering look. There seemed to be something in his heart that was tearing him apart. It was so painful that he couldn't breathe. What Yi Qing Luo said wasn't wrong. He had fallen in love with Yi Qing Luo and was persistent towards her. It was the warmth she gave him when he first met her. What he longed for was her warmth. But he had been stubborn for a long time. This greed had been deeply engraved in the depths of his soul. He only wanted Yi Qing Luo, madly wanting Yi Qing Luo. He was actually very clear about this. Yi Qing Luo would never leave D.M.O. Xian. She would never give her love to him. However, he couldn't help but want to give it a try. He wanted to find that tiny chance. He could not bear to let go. Friends, family, Chu Wuexen muttered Yi Qing Luo's words softly. He chuckled softly. Indeed, as a friend, as a brother, as a relative. Only then would he be able to stay by Yi Qing Luo's side. Only then could he truly feel the warmth that he wanted. He knew that towards her brothers, Yi Qing Luo had always been willing to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames without hesitation. But he didn't want to. He just wanted to be her one and only. He didn't want to be one of her brothers, friends, or family. He would rather, using this identity as her only special enemy, to maintain a relationship with her. He was also unwilling when those so-called brothers, friends, and relatives. But such a special existence. What he lost? Perhaps it was the warmth that he wanted from Yi Qing Luo, based on what he wanted to be in so much pain in his past memories. But she could be blissful in Dmo Xian's arms? She belonged to him. His Chu Wuexion's hand was trembling slightly. Chapter 2199. Yi Qing Luo had just walked out of the ancestral hall. He was startled by the scene in front of him. There were at least 300 to 400 people gathered at the entrance of the ancestral hall. Standing right in front were the youths from Devil Class. Their faces were solemn as they gripped their weapons tightly, ready to charge into the ancestral hall at any time. And at the forefront of the crowd, Old Man Guiyu and Ghost Doctor were also ready. Yunduan and the other elders tried to persuade him, sweating profusely. After seeing Yi Qing Luo's figure, the few elders seemed as though they had seen their savior as they rushed up. Student Yi Qing Luo, it's good that you're out, it's good that you're out. Quickly come and persuade Ghost Doctor and Old Man Guiyu. The both of them are about to tear down the ancestral hall. Before they could surround their savior, one by one, their bodies were blown away by the hurricane. Following that, 2 figures surrounded Yi Qing Luo tightly. Lass, are you all right? Did the people from the upper profound hall do anything to you? Old Man Guiyu grabbed Yi Qing Luo's hand and sized her up. Whatever grievances you have suffered, just tell me. I will go in and seek justice for you. Ghost Doctor didn't say a word as he grabbed Yi Qing Luo's wrist, helping to take her pulse. Looking at the 2 people surrounding him with concern, he felt a chill run down his spine. The unhappiness that had arisen from Zhu Wuexan just now vanished like smoke in an instant. She raised her pink lips, revealing a bright smile, and gave them a big hug. I'm fine. I just went in to chat with the hall master of the upper profound palace. Yi Qing Luo's eyes curved, confirming that Yi Qing Luo had indeed not suffered any injuries. Old Man Guiyu was relieved and gently patted Yi Qing Luo's delicate shoulder. The minute he let go of Yi Qing Luo, Old Man Guiyu looked at Ghost Doctor beside him, and his expression suddenly changed as he grabbed onto Yi Qing Luo's wrist and refused to let go. I say, lass, you're too biased. Why did you hug that old man first before hugging me? I asked you to be my disciple, but you became that old geezer's disciple. Now you're hugging him first. Yi Qing Luo. Teacher Guiyu, are you sure you're not stirring up trouble? Old Man Guiyu didn't care what Yi Qing Luo was thinking. Directly pulled her into his arms. No, since you're so biased, I still want to hug you again. I want to hug you one more time than that smelly old man. Yi Qing Luo. Teacher Guiyu, aren't you worried about ruining your reputation by behaving so shamelessly in front of so many students? The surrounding students were speechless. In any case, Teacher Guiyu had never cared about his image. It was very normal for him to act like a deranged person. What did Hall Master look for you to discuss? Ghost Doctor looked at Yi Qing Luo indifferently as he asked. Yi Qing Luo finally struggled free from Old Man Guiyu's arms, and when she heard Ghost Doctor's question, she immediately ran over to him, seeking for protection. Just as she was about to answer, she caught a glimpse of Yun Xiang, who was watching her nervously from the corner of her eye. A trace of craftiness flashed past Yi-Ching Luo's eyes, talking about the recent situation in the academy. Academy? If the Upper Profound Palace wanted to understand the situation, did they need to specially ask their students? But after seeing the craftiness in Yi-Ching Luo's eyes, Ghost Doctor nodded his head as he cooperated and asked, "What else did Hall Master say?" "He said a lot regarding the Academy's future development." Yi-Ching Luo looked at the elders beside her with deep meaning. "Hall Master said that regarding the director's matter, he is clear about it. Regarding this matter, he will give a corresponding measure." The elders' expressions congealed. Some of them revealed a joyous expression. Chapter 2200. Yi-Ching Luo's words obviously conveyed a message. Heavenly Profound Palace was extremely dissatisfied with the director. Heavenly Profound Palace wanted to abolish the director. Then, the new director could be chosen from the few elders. This news naturally made those elders wild with joy. But Yun Xiang was very clear. He and Yi-Ching Luo had always been at odds. The Hall Master would discuss with Yi-Ching Luo about the Academy's matters and the matter of abolishing the director. Apparently his relationship with Yi-Ching Luo was very good. The director's position would never belong to him, and he had always been standing on the director's side, doing things for him. If anything happened to the director, he would be the first to be implicated. He knew that once Yi-Ching Luo returned to the academy, his life would become a mess. Looking at Yun Xiang's gloomy face, Yi-Ching Luo laughed secretly. The Hall Master looked for her because of Zhu Wuexin. It had nothing to do with the Heavenly Academy, but she could make use of the Heavenly Profound Palace's power to bully, and target that director. Coincidentally, this was also a good excuse to oust the dean from his position and help someone else to take his place. Anyway, the Heavenly Profound Palace would absolutely not come out to explain. She was just making things up. "Oh, yes, Elder Yunyan." Yi-Ching Luo's gaze suddenly fell on Yunyan. Yunyan smiled slightly and asked kindly, "What's the matter?" "The Hall Master specially asked me about this year's interclass competition and asked you to arrange for our Devil class students to go to the class of gods for special training." Yi-Ching Luo recalled those words from the Hall Master regarding her background, regarding the method to go to the upper realm. Although the Hall Master didn't say it clearly, she could tell that the second method to go to the upper realm was somewhat troublesome and might require a lot of time. She had to enter the class of gods as soon as possible and find the student mentioned by the Hall Master to ask for the details of the second method so that she could be prepared in advance. As for the abolishment of the director and the support of the new director, take it slow, no rush. Yi-Ching Luo's smile was as bright as a flower, blooming even more brilliantly. Yun nodded. "The Academy has already arranged for this matter, just waiting for you to return to the Devil class." He looked at the group of youngsters behind Yi-Ching Luo, but the class of gods is, after all, the class of gods, the Heavenly Academy's proudest class. Although student Yi-Ching Luo had performed outstandingly in the interclass competition, his performance in the Southern Continent's Academy Exchange Meet was outstanding. But rules are, after all, rules. Student Yi-Ching Luo doesn't have any objections, right? "No," Yi-Ching Luo replied simply. Yun Duan was very satisfied with Yi-Ching Luo's understanding of the big picture. "Then, will student Yi-Ching Luo please select 10 Devil class students to follow you into the class of gods to undergo special training. Tomorrow I will personally lead you to the class of gods." After exchanging some pleasantries, Yunduan called for the other elders to disperse the crowd and let them return to class. Yi-Ching Luo also called for her bunch of students as they headed back towards the direction of Devil class. Ghost Doctor and Guiyu followed Yi-Ching Luo back to Devil class. As for both of them leaving the Heavenly Academy, everyone pretended as if nothing had happened. Some people were happy while others were sad. Sitting in the small room in the ancestral hall, the dean copied the book of teacher virtues for the 13th time. The resentment towards Yi Qing Luo in his heart had risen to the peak. Chapter 2201. The president's hand, which was holding the pen, tightened. His gaze congealed as it swept past the dark and eerie ancestral hall. He didn't see any shadow. The president had lived for more than half his life, and in order to secure his position, his hands were stained with blood. To hear such a strange sound in the ancestral hall, the president's hair stood on its end. He frowned as he surveyed the surroundings. President. That sound rang again, as though it was right in front of him. The president's expression changed slightly as he suddenly stood up from the side of the short table. Who? He bellowed. Who's playing tricks? Get out here right now. It's me, President. That voice rang by the side of his ear again. The president felt as though his sleeve was being tugged by something. He suddenly waved it away. Who's there? A loud dong sound was heard. The sound of a heavy object falling onto the ground was extremely loud. In front of the memorial tablet, the lighted candle illuminated the object, which had fallen onto the ground clearly. The object, which was lying on the ground, was a lump of white. That lump of white thing moved bit by bit. With great difficulty, he raised his head. The president was stunned. Elder Yunxiang? The dim candlelight, although it wasn't clear, but the president recognized the figure in front of him at one glance. President, it's me. Don't make any noise. I'm going to be discovered. Yunxiang rubbed his body in pain as he struggled to prop himself up. I used the secret art of burrowing into the ground and escaped to the ancestral hall, so I didn't trigger the backlash from the ancestral hall's enchantment. Earlier, when he was tortured by the president, he didn't know if it had attracted the attention of the upper profound hall. What are you here for? The president's expression congealed as he revealed an unhappy expression. I'm here to send news to the president. Yunxiang could tell that the president was unhappy as he snorted in disdain, but on the surface, he had to display a wholehearted expression. News? The president squinted his sinister eyes. What news? Yi Qing Luo, that little slut. She came out from the upper profound hall. Yunxiang gritted his teeth. The president's expression suddenly turned green and purple. How could she possibly come out from the upper profound hall? Didn't they want to detain her and make her stay in the upper profound hall? Upper profound hall. The mysterious existence of the Heavenly Academy. Even he, the head of the Ascendant Xian Hall, had only seen those from the Ascendant Xian Hall twice. People from the Upper Xian Palace. Compared to the dark forces, they were even more terrifying. Such a mysterious and powerful force. Looking for Yi Qing Luo, wasn't it to detain Yi Qing Luo or to get something from Yi Qing Luo, no matter what the reason was? Based on Yi Qing Luo's arrogant character, he would definitely die in the Upper Xian Hall. However, she actually walked out from the Upper Profound Hall? That's right. Not only did she leave the Upper Mysterious Hall unscathed, it is said that she even brought back the Hall Master's orders. Yunxiang saw Director's expression starting to turn ugly, and he struck while the iron was hot as he told Director everything which he had heard from Yi Qing Luo. The more the dean heard, the uglier his expression became. After Yunxiang finished speaking, he suddenly waved his palm and slammed it on the ground. A huge pit appeared around his palm. Director's facial features were sinister as his veins popped out. Yi Qing Luo! That bitch! She's talking nonsense. How could the Upper Profound Hall possibly interfere in the Heavenly Academy's matters? If the Upper Profound Hall really interfered in the Academy's matters to meddle in the Dean's matters. For so many years, he had been following beside the Dark Forces and working for the Dark Forces. So the Upper Profound Hall had long taken action against him. Chapter 2202. This must be Yi Qing Luo's nonsense. She wanted to use the Profound Palace to pull him down. Director, what should we do? Yunxiang and the director thought of the same thing. Yunxiang felt the same way too. How could things be so coincidental? Why would the Lord of the Profound Palace specially look for Yi Qing Luo to ask about the Heavenly Academy? Not to mention whether the Profound Palace would pay so much attention to the Heavenly Academy. Even if they really wanted to ask about the situation of the Heavenly Academy, then the one. If it was not Grand Elder Yunyan, then it should be the president of the Faculty Council. No matter what, it couldn't be Yi Qing Luo. Yun Xiang, the only one I can trust is you. This dean will absolutely not let that bitch oust this dean. The director grabbed Yun Xiang's shoulder. You help me keep an eye on that slut. See who she wants to promote to be the dean. Then tell this matter to the president of the Faculty Council, Si Yanmu. President Si? Yun Xiang was stunned. He is just a student, tell him. You don't need to know why. In short, as long as she is sure who she wants to promote as the dean, tell Si Yanmu. Si Yanmu will think of a way for me. The director's face was gloomy, his tone was sinister. As long as we get through these 3 days, when I get out, everything will be settled. Yun Xiang looked at the director's confident expression, although he was curious about the relationship between Si Yanmu and the director, but he still nodded obediently and replied, Director, don't worry. I will keep an eye on Yi Qing Luo. The dean calmed his heart and looked at Yun Xiang. With a smile on his face, he patted Yun Xiang's shoulder heavily and said, Yun Xiang, as long as I can keep my position as the dean, I will definitely uphold justice for you as the first elder. Yun Xiang's eyes lit up, his face was filled with joy. Yun had been pressing on his head for so many years, and every time he would put on a nice guy look, constantly stopping any decision he made. If the Grand Elder became him, he could trample on Yun fiercely. A sharp glint flashed past Yun Xiang's eyes. He smiled and bowed to the director. I am willing to serve the dean till my death. The two looked at each other and laughed softly. In the dark night, no one noticed that a petite figure in red was leaning leisurely against a wooden pillar at the entrance of the ancestral hall. The moonlight seemed to coat the girl with a layer of silver brilliance. It made the young girl look like a fairy that had descended from the heavens. Her lips curled into a teasing smile as she stared at the ancestral hall with a faint smile. Everything that was said in the ancestral hall was clearly heard by her. He had to admit that the heavenly dean had some brains to be able to be the dean for so many years. At the very least, he had guessed correctly that she had used the upper profound hall to scheme against him. However, so what if he guessed correctly? He was trapped in the ancestral hall, and his reputation had plummeted. What kind of storm could he set off in 3 days? 3 days, it could change many things. Looking for Si Yanmu for help? The girl sneered. His figure suddenly seemed to melt into the air bit by bit, disappearing into thin air. The next day, Yi Qing Luo led the 10 students she had chosen, and under the guidance of Yun Duan, they headed towards the class of gods to report. Just as he walked out of the devil class courtyard, then he was surrounded by a large group of students from different classes. This made the students of the devil class feel overwhelmed by the favor. One must know that in the past, no matter where they appeared, they would be treated with disdain by the other students, or even directly humiliated by them. Although later on, they won the championship in the interclass competition, and there were some people who supported them. Chapter 2203. But after this school's exchange meeting, after the misfortune in the West Continent, the students, towards these young boys and girls in devil class, all admired them from the bottom of their hearts. What they admired, not only the devil class's ability, it was also the spirit and faith that they had passed on. These youngsters were no longer the ones whom they mocked and ridiculed in the past. They relied on their own strength, persevered in the training, using their strong willpower to create a miracle that belonged to them. All these left a deep impression in the hearts of the students. It also gave the students a strong belief. They wanted to change themselves. They wanted to become strong. They wanted to not be looked down upon by others. Then they would rely on their own efforts, their own willpower, their own confidence. In each and every failure, reflect on themselves, break through themselves, create a miracle that belonged to them. These students who were once called trash had done it. Then the elite students who were selected by the Heavenly Academy, possessed a much stronger innate talent than the youngsters in Devil class. They would definitely be able to do it, to become stronger, a place where ability reigned supreme. Ability was the best way to conquer people's hearts. Under the respectful escort of a bunch of students, the Devil class students were sent to the entrance of the class of God's courtyard. Yun Duan stopped in his tracks and looked at Yi Qing Luo amiably. "Student Yi Qing Luo, this is the class of gods. Please lead the students in." "Elder Yun Duan is not going in?" Yi Qing Luo looked curiously at this place which the Heavenly Academy regarded as the God Institute. From the looks of it, there was no special difference from their Devil class courtyard. The exterior design, decor, style were exactly the same as the current Devil class courtyard, which had been cleaned up. The only difference was it was the plaque above the courtyard, written in flamboyant calligraphy were the words "Class of Gods." Class of Gods is a very special existence in the Heavenly Academy. It's similar to the Heavenly Hall. If there's no urgent matter, not only the elders, even the dean cannot enter. Yun Duan explained. Then, "Can I still come out during the special training?" Yi Qing Luo asked again. "Of course you can, as long as the special training assigned by the Class of Gods Master is completed. You can leave the Class of Gods anytime." Yun Duan seemed to see through Yi Qing Luo's thoughts. "You can also return to Devil class anytime." Yi Qing Luo let out a sigh of relief. If he couldn't leave the God class after entering. As for the dean's matters, she could not interfere. What an interesting game. It would be too boring if he couldn't interfere. "Then we'll go in first." Yi Qing Luo looked at the wide-opened courtyard door of the I-class, and it was filled with a vast expanse of white rays, unable to see the scene inside clearly. Cloud smiled and nodded. The 11 people from the Devil class stepped into the courtyard of the Class of Gods, one after another. When the last person disappeared into the white light, the courtyard door, which had been opened wide, suddenly closed. The surrounding students exclaimed in surprise. Their eyes were filled with envy as they pointed at the yard of the Class of God and discussed animatedly. Behind the crowd, Yun Xiang, who was dressed in a white robe, stared gloomily at Yi Qing Luo and the others who had entered the Class of Gods, as a chilly glint flashed past his eyes. The special training for the Class of Gods lasted for a month. In this 1 month, Yi Qing Luo probably didn't have the energy to find trouble with the director. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity, together with Si Yanmu, to make use of Yi Qing Luo to go to the Profound Hall, deliberately fabricate the news that she wanted to abolish the director, and spread it throughout the academy. Chapter 2204. When Yi Qing Luo and the rest entered the Class of Gods, everyone immediately felt a ripple-like feeling envelop their bodies. The few of them sucked in a breath of cold air as they instinctively moved closer to Yi Qing Luo's direction as they released their senses vigilantly. That feeling of rippling water slowly spread out from Yi Qing Luo's silhouette. Yi Qing Luo wasn't unfamiliar with this feeling. When she entered the hall master's bedroom in the upper Profound Hall, she had felt this kind of airflow feeling. This is a high-grade enchantment. Old Man Song explained in her mind. This kind of enchantment can only be created by cultivators with profound cultivation, at least Sky Profound 8th grade and above. Your cultivation is too low, so when you pass through this kind of high-grade enchantment, you'll feel the fluctuation of the enchantment. High-grade enchantment? Yi Qing Luo was slightly stunned. What's the difference between this and Feng Ling's enchantment? Old Man Song replied. In Nirvana realm, Feng Ling's grade of enchantment master is not bad, and she is very talented in enchantment. But the enchantment and one's own profound energy are inseparable. No matter how powerful her enchantment is, your profound grade is above hers. Although her enchantment can trap you, but it won't affect you too much. In other words, class of God's enchantment not only could trap her, it would also affect her. Old man Tsang saw that she didn't speak for a long time, so he persuaded, "You don't need to mind it. Didn't that elder said earlier, as long as you complete the training mission, you can leave the class of gods any time?" "Amen," Yi Qing Luo responded. "Enchantment? No wonder it's the high class of gods. This courtyard's entrance even has an enchantment." Qiao Jin clicked his tongue. "We also have an array." Yan Xiao Yi snorted in her eyes. No class could be compared to their devil class. "Let's not talk about this for now. The most important thing now is to find the academy that we are going to." Long Yunzhan's cold voice rang. The 10 over people surveyed the surroundings, and all kept silent. In their imagination, after entering the class of gods, they would be dazzled by the splendor, gold and jade splendor, the high-class atmosphere. But who knew? After they entered the class of gods, it was a vast expanse of whiteness in front of them. If the few of them were a little further away, that meant that he couldn't see the other party at all. It turned out that when they entered the gates of the class of gods courtyard, the vast expanse of whiteness wasn't created by the class of gods to act mysterious. It was true a vast expanse of whiteness. He could not see the road ahead, nor could he see the road behind. What the hell is this place? There's not even a guide. Is this how the class of gods treats its students? Bai Ming Lulu frowned in displeasure. Class of gods has never treated the students of the Heavenly Academy as their classmates. Tong Ziqing sneered. Indeed, in the Heavenly Academy, the class of gods was a legendary existence. How could the students of the class of gods care about the other students? Yes. I've asked around before coming here. And Rupin lowered her voice and whispered, "The instructors of the class of God are experts from the upper realm." Upper realm? The youths widened their eyes in astonishment. A person from the upper realm coming to the Nirvana realm to be a teacher. Isn't that destroying the balance of the Nirvana realm? Chapter 2205. People from the upper realm head to the lower realm to guide the extremely talented cultivators, which is a common occurrence in the upper realm, because they are nurturing their realm's future elites. Hearing Qiao Jin's explanation, Yi Qing Luo's expression changed slightly, which is to say, Nirvana realm as a lower realm. All those who are eliminated by the upper realm will stay in the lower realm, while those who are chosen by the upper realm will be nurtured to their satisfaction and brought back to the upper realm. Qiao Jin's thin lips curled into a ridiculing smile. Right, this is what those sanctimonious hypocrites from the upper realm say. To the upper realm and other realms. The Nirvana realm was an abandoned place. And this kind of abandoned place, if there were 1 or 2 good breeds, they would first nurture them for a period of time and see if they could be brought back to their realm. No wonder the students from the class of God were spread to be so miraculous. Upper realm hypocrites? Jean Z, how do you know the people from the upper realm said such things? And Ruo Pan heard Qiao Jin's words and sensed something different. Right. And it sounds like Jean Z is very familiar with the upper realm. Bei Ming Lu nodded in agreement. Dan Bai Shi also nodded. Jean Z, why are you so familiar with the upper realm's matters? Quickly tell us. Do you know anyone from the upper realm? Qiao Jin's expression changed greatly from being questioned. He hurriedly hid behind his wife. Yan Xiao, he couldn't wait to strangle Qiao Jin to death. This was obviously Qiao Jin's own fault, and he actually hid behind her. But Qiao Jin was the descendant of the Huangfu family from the heaven realm of the upper realm. It had to be kept a secret. It wasn't that they didn't trust their own brother, but this kind of matter, the fewer people who knew, the safer it would be. Just as the couple was racking their brains, thinking of how to avoid this question, Yi Qing Luo suddenly raised her arm. Stop fooling around. Smell carefully. Do you smell anything? The few who were fooling around immediately restrained their expressions. The few of them sniffed seriously and shook their heads. No, Wait, wait! Bei Ming Lu cried out. I think I smell it. What do you smell? The other students asked curiously. Bei Ming Lu looked at Yi Qing Luo with uncertainty. I smell. The smell of pills. Medicinal pills? The students were puzzled. They moved their noses and sniffed for a long time. But they didn't smell any medicinal pills. Yi Qing Luo nodded. Yes, it's the smell of medicinal pills. When Bai Ming Lu appeared, she immediately smiled and heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Qing Luo took a look at the 10 people beside her. Since we can't find the way, then let's follow the smell of the medicinal pills. As long as we can see a figure, then we will be able to find the academy. The 10 of them had no objections. Yi Qing Luo and Bei Ming Lu used their noses to lead the way. The 11 people walked for about the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. The white mist of immortal qi in the surroundings gradually faded. They could vaguely see a large door in front of them that seemed to be rippling in the white mist. It was getting closer. Everyone could clearly see that it was indeed a large door. There was also a huge stone statue of a phoenix lying in front of the door, ready to take flight. The feathers of the fiery red phoenix shone with red light. It looked very lifelike. At first glance, it was somewhat similar to her family's Qian. Qing Luo looked behind the stone statue. Chapter 2206. Yi Qing Luo shifted her vision from the stone statue to the direction which Yan Xiaoyi was pointing at. Indeed, behind that stone statue sat a young man who was eating something while leaning against the wall. The young man looked handsome, and he gave off a lazy aura. He was holding a jade bottle in his hand and was pouring something out from it, stuffing it into his mouth. It was a medicinal pill. It was the medicinal pill which Yi Qing Luo and Bei Ming Lu had smelled. The young man didn't seem to notice that someone was approaching. He chewed the medicinal pill in his mouth for a while before pouring another pill and throwing it into his mouth. He was eating it with great relish. If it wasn't for the fact that Yi Qing Luo could clearly smell the medicinal pill's fragrance, she almost thought that this young man was eating an ordinary candy. It'll be easier if there's someone around. He must be a student from the class of God. Let him lead the way. Yan Xiaoyi walked up in quick steps until Yi Qing Luo stopped in front of the young man. The young man then slowly raised his head as he swept a lukewarm glance at Yan Xiaoyi. That gaze seemed to be sweeping germs. Yan Xiaoyi could clearly feel the disdain in the young man's gaze. Yan Xiaoyi's explosive temper instantly couldn't take it. What's with that gaze? What did I do to you? Is there a need to look at me with such disdain? Qiao Jin hurriedly chased up as he pulled Yan Xiaoyi's arm and brought her into his arms. Xiaoyi, don't be rash. We're in their territory now, so calm down, calm down. Yan Xiaoyi hadn't said a word. The young man threw the jade bottle and kept it into his sleeves as he shot a glance at the furious-looking Yan Xiaoyi with a smile, which didn't look like a smile as he scoffed. Yan Xiaoyi instantly exploded. Stinky brat, what's with your attitude? Do you think you're very handsome and think that I'm here to strike up a conversation with you? What's there to be arrogant about? The young man glanced at Qiao Jin lazily as he ridiculed. Your eyesight is so bad, but I'm very assured. His words had a hidden meaning, apparently mocking Qiao Jin's ordinary looks. Yan Xiaoyi could bear with it when she herself suffered grievances, but when she heard someone attacking her man, her temper flared up in an instant. Just because of your honor? I don't like you at all. You're so ugly that even the gods would be enraged. You're ugly to a whole new level. Yan Xiaoyi retorted without holding back. Xiaoyi. When Qiao Jin saw that his wife was so protective of him, he was very pleased in his heart. However, the current situation wasn't suitable for any conflict with the students of the class of gods. Qiao Jin hugged Yan Xiaoyi tightly as he consoled her softly. Xiaoyi, I don't care what others say about me. Don't clash with him. Leave this to Qing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi felt suffocated. He couldn't get rid of it no matter what. I'm sorry, this sister of mine has a bad temper, but she doesn't have any ill intentions. Tong Ziqing walked slowly to Yan Xiaoyi's side and gently patted the back of her hand. Following that, her cold gaze landed on the young man. We are the students from the Devil class that won the Heavenly Academy's interclass competition. Can you lead the way and bring us to the academy? When Tong Ziqing walked out, the young man's eyes were fixed on Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing was silent for a moment when she saw that he was silent. Then, she took out 2 medicine bottles from her interspatial pocket. These were pills which Bei Ming Lu Lu had specially refined according to Yi Qing Luo's prescription. If this student is willing to lead the way, these 2 bottles of middle-grade pills will be our thanks. Tong Ziqing said as she walked to the front of the young man and passed the medicine bottles to him. Chapter 2207. Tong Ziqing's eyes were cold. I don't know. The young man took out the medicine bottle that he had just tossed into his sleeve and threw it at Tong Ziqing. I've just finished my headmaster's special training. I'm resting here and eating some snacks. Tong Ziqing did not understand what he meant. She took the bottle in her hand and looked down at it. Ziqing, show it to Lulu. Yi Qing Luo said. Tong Ziqing handed it to Bai Ming Lu Lu. Bai Ming Lu Lu poured out 1 pill and placed it in front of her nose to sniff it as her expression turned into shock. Qing Luo, this is a high-grade medicinal pill, profound assembly pill. High-grade Xian gathering pill? Yi Qing Luo was also rather surprised. A high-grade medicinal pill was worth 1,000 gold. On the other hand, the profound condensation pill was a medicinal pill used to consolidate the cultivation of profounders and replenish their origin energy. If the high-grade profound gathering pellet was placed in an auction, it would definitely be fought over by countless cultivators. Of course, it was not to say that the Heavenly Academy did not have any top-grade Xian gathering pills. After all, the Heavenly Academy had Ghost Doctor, a master alchemist. However, every class would be allocated high-grade Xian gathering pills according to the students' overall results. Even High Profound Class 2 could only get 2 bottles at most. Other classes would be considered lucky if they could get 1 bottle or 5 or 6 pills. For the past Devil class, they were completely unable to get a single profound gathering pill. But that youth just said, was this the snack he ate after the special training? Just from looking at how this young man was stuffing Xian gathering pills into his mouth one after another, he was indeed treating them as snacks. It was the pill that every class dreamed of. In the class of gods, it was a snack for the students. Without comparison, there would be no harm. Even if they had Yi Qing Luo, this extremely talented alchemist, and Bei Ming Lu Lu from the divine Dr. Bei Ming family, these 2 top-rated alchemists in the Devil class, it was impossible for them to treat Xian gathering pills as snacks. Devil class students expressed, what a waste of heavenly treasures! What a stab in the heart! Tong Ziqing looked at the medicine bottle in Bai Ming Lulu's hand, and then looked at the medicine bottle in her hand. There was no special change in the expression on her face. Even high-grade Xian gathering pills could be eaten as snacks. It was no wonder that he looked down on this kind of middle-grade medicinal pill. The class of gods lived up to its name. Tong Ziqing expressionlessly took the bottle and was about to put it back. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew against his face. Then his hand was empty. Tong Ziqing took a few steps back, warily, and looked up. The young man waved the 2 medicine bottles in his hands at her. But since this is a token of love from this little beauty, I will reluctantly accept it. Tong Ziqing's face darkened and her eyebrows furrowed. Why did this youth's words sound like he was teasing her? Before Tong Ziqing could speak, her arms suddenly tightened and her body suddenly fell back a few steps. Tong Ziqing was slightly startled and turned to look behind her. When she met a pair of icy blue eyes, a hint of joy surfaced in her eyes. "Class monitor, Long Yunjan looked coldly at Tong Ziqing and pulled her behind him as he looked expressionlessly at that lazy young man. Student, since medicinal pills to you are just ordinary snacks, then those 2 bottles of middle-grade medicinal pills, why do you need to take them? The young man's brows rose as his gaze swept past Long Yunjan and Tong Ziqing. Little beauty's token of love. It's not valuable, so I naturally take it. Long Yunjan frowned slightly. Chapter 2208. When he said that, the few people in Devil class all froze. Even Tong Ziqing unknowingly clutched her sleeves tightly as she lowered her head, not daring to look at Long Yunjan. She didn't open her mouth to stop the young man's question. When Long Yunjan stood up and blocked in front of her, Tong Ziqing's heart was already soaring. The young man teased her. Was Long Yunjan jealous? So that was why he stood out to help her. When she heard the young man asking, "That little beauty, is she your woman?" Tong Ziqing's heart almost jumped to her throat. She was anticipating Long Yunjan's reply, but was also afraid of Long Yunjan's reply. The others were well aware of Tong Ziqing's secret love for Long Yunjan, so naturally they wouldn't interrupt this question. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly. Based on her understanding of Long Yunjan, Long Yunjan was afraid. Her expression congealed slightly as she was about to open her mouth to break this stalemate, but she heard Long Yunjan's thin lips moving slightly, as his voice was calm, as he said word by word, "No." Devil class's students' breathing tightened. They all looked at Tong Ziqing worriedly. "No. No. No." 2 simple words, as sharp as a blade, piercing towards Tong Ziqing's heart time and time again. Her eyes turned slightly red from the piercing. Her hands, which were hanging by her side, clenched tightly and clenched even tighter. Her usual cold and indifferent expression was unable to be maintained. Her eyelashes were trembling non-stop, as though tears were about to flow out. The stubborn and arrogant Tong Ziqing. But because of these 2 piercing words, she almost threw away her helmet and armor. Yi Qing Luo's heart ached, as she wanted to go up to comfort her. But these two's matter was destined that outsiders would not be able to interfere. Before she had even taken a step, that Tong Ziqing who had lowered her head had already slowly raised her head. On her face, she still had that arrogant attitude. Only the red rims of her eyes betrayed her feelings. "She is my very important brother. Your words are too frivolous and will ruin her reputation." Long Yunjan's faint voice rang once again. He didn't turn back, as though he couldn't feel the stiff atmosphere. He didn't notice that the woman behind him had almost shed tears because of those 2 words. The lazy young man looked at the woman behind Long Yunjan with interest. He waved the bottle in his hand again. How is this ruining her reputation? The little beauty had clearly said that she would lead the way and give him the medicine. Now that I have the medicine, I will naturally lead the way. Since you've led the way, isn't it only right for me to accept these 2 bottles of thanks from the little beauty? The youth's words were flawless. Long Yunjan frowned, and his eyes were cold. Behind him, the woman's cold voice sounded indifferently. "Student, since you've accepted the gift, please lead the way." Tong Ziqing walked out from behind Long Yunjan. Seeing Tong Ziqing, the smile on the youth's face widened. His curved eyes made him look even more dazzling. However, Tong Ziqing could sense the glint in the depths of his smiling eyes. It was as if he could see through her soul with a single glance. Tong Ziqing blinked her sore eyes, trying to calm her heart down. "Ziqing." Long Yunjan's tone was slightly heavy as he glanced sideways at the woman beside him. "Towards you, he—" "No matter." Tong Ziqing interrupted him calmly. "Finding the academy is more important." He didn't care. What was so important about the young man's feelings towards her? Long Yunjan took a look at the young man and eventually didn't say a word as he retreated back to Yi Qing Luo's side. Chapter 2209. The youth walked in front of Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing furrowed her brows and took a step back, putting some distance between them. She looked up at him. The youth stood tall and straight, a full head taller than her. Tong Ziqing's heart trembled. Looking at a youth from this angle, it really made the youth's face look extremely handsome. But her expression didn't change as she said, faintly, "Please lead the way." The youth's lips curled into a mischievous smile. All of a sudden, he bent his head down and planted a kiss on Tong Ziqing's forehead with lightning speed. The youth's clear voice rang in Tong Ziqing's ears. "Little beauty, remember my name. I am Si Minghan." He was already 10 steps away from Tong Ziqing when he finished speaking. No one had expected him to do this. Tong Ziqing seemed to be shocked. She stood there motionlessly with a look of shock on her face. After a long while, her cheeks turned red and her beautiful eyes were filled with anger. You lecher! Is this how students from the class of gods behave?" Long Yunjan reacted. He moved his palm and attacked in Si Minghan's direction. Si Minghan winked at Tong Ziqing and easily dodged Long Yunjan's attack. "You want me to lead the way?" "Other than this gift." "Of course, there are other gifts." Cold air emanated from Long Yunjan's body. He attacked Si Minghan with his palm again. "I've already received the gift I deserve. Do you still want me to lead the way?" Si Minghan raised his eyebrows mockingly, completely disregarding Long Yunjan's attack. After easily dodging it again, he took out a jade bottle from his sleeve and started eating snacks. Long Yunjan's eyes were cold. He turned to look at the blushing Tong Ziqing, and his blue eyes flashed coldly. "Lead the way," Tong Ziqing suddenly said faintly. Her voice was slightly hoarse, but her emotions were calm. Long Yunjan's attack paused, and he frowned at her. Tong Ziqing's gaze was fixed on Si Minghan. She narrowed her eyes and said coldly, "Since you've received the gift, don't waste everyone's time." Si Minghan smiled and nodded. "You're right, little beauty. Let's go, I'll lead the way." As he spoke, he pushed open the door behind the phoenix statue and walked in. Tong Ziqing followed behind. Long Yunjan frowned. "Ziqing, it doesn't matter." Tong Ziqing glanced back at him and smiled faintly. "It's more important to find the school." Then he followed behind Si Minghan. Long Yunjan furrowed his brows and clenched his fists as he followed. The few devil-class students behind him had a face of shock. He didn't understand at all. Why did things happen so strangely? "Qing Luo, what do you think? What kind of situation is this?" Yan Xiaoyi was also stunned. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes. That fellow, he might have taken a fancy to our Ziqing. And it was love at first sight. Then what about the class monitor? Yan Xiaoyi also felt that the kid had taken a liking to Tong Ziqing. That brat's attitude towards her was so bad. But when he saw Tong Ziqing, he seemed to have changed into another person. But if someone fell in love with Tong Ziqing, wouldn't their class monitor continue to be single? Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips. Perhaps this Si Minghan's appearance timing is rather good. At least, it can let Ajan understand his own heart as soon as possible. Earlier, Long Yunjan's performance obviously showed that he cared about Tong Ziqing. Chapter 2210. After stepping into that big door, that vast expanse of white immortal qi had already disappeared without a trace. Yi Qing Luo and the rest finally saw the surrounding environment clearly. A very standard class configuration. Right now, the place where the 11 of them were walking to was a small-scale training ground. There were 5 weapon racks placed around it. Yi Qing Luo could tell at one glance that the weapons on the weapon racks were all at least of the pure grade and above. These weapons, although they weren't considered as top-quality weapons, but to be able to use pure grade weapons, at least their reputation and ability in the pugilistic world were considered to be at a decent level. No wonder they were the class of gods. In this aspect, they were just so heroic. Further ahead, it was another large-scale, training ground. There were twos and threes of students dressed in white, sitting cross-legged in the middle of the training ground. The other Devil class students didn't understand what was going on. What are they doing? Don't tell me. They're raising their internal strength? Bei Ming Lu didn't know much about cultivation. The other students shook their heads. Maybe it's a special cultivation method in Class of Gods. Beside those students who were sitting cross-legged stood a male student. After hearing Devil Class's words, the gaze he shot towards them became extremely ridiculing. From his nose, there was even a disdainful, cold ridicule. That student didn't conceal it. That cold humph was clearly transmitted over. Yan Xiaoyi's expression instantly changed. Qiao Jin hurriedly held her shoulders. We've just arrived, so if we can avoid trouble, try not to stir up any trouble. They're raising the level of their profound jade heart. The clear and melodious voice spoke slowly and slowly, speaking extremely clearly. Yan Xiaoyi's attention was also diverted. Qing Luo, you say. They're doing this to raise their profound jade heart grade? Didn't the profound jade heart grade follow the advancement of the profound grade and breakthrough? Could it still cultivate its own profound jade heart on its own? Yi Qing Luo nodded. Her charming eyes calmly swept past those 6 people who were sitting cross-legged. This training ground has been chosen very well, and the spiritual qi is very abundant. It's indeed especially suitable to nurture the profound jade heart. The others didn't quite understand what she was saying. The male student who gave a cold hump earlier had an extremely ugly expression on his face. Even Si Minghan, who was leading the way, couldn't help but look at Yi Qing Luo. This student from the Devil class was rather interesting. He even knew about nurturing the profound jade heart. In the entire Nirvana realm, there weren't many people who knew that profound jade heart could be nurtured after birth. This method was taught to them by a teacher from the upper realm. He didn't expect that this Devil class student would be able to tell that they were nurturing their profound heart jade with a single glance. It seemed that this year's Heavenly Academy was quite interesting. It was no wonder that Zi Qianchan was reluctant to come back after leaving the God class. The 2 students in the class of God had all sorts of guesses about Yi Qing Luo. But what they didn't know was that Yi Qing Luo was able to clearly see where the hearts of those students who were sitting cross-legged and nurturing their profound heart jades was also the place where the profound heart jades were nurtured. It shone with an extremely dazzling light. That light caused her profound heart jade to gradually become scorching hot. She forcefully suppressed the uncomfortable feeling transmitted from her profound heart jade. Narrowing her charming eyes, she stared at the place where those students' profound heart jades were. 6 students, 2 green light profound heart jades, 3 blue light profound heart jades, and 1 was actually an indigo light profound heart jade. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple. These 7 grades. There were actually students in the class of God who had attained indigo grade profound heart jade. Chapter 22:11. After passing through the second profound jade heart training ground, the front turned into a small path. At the end of the small path, there were numerous small paths that branched off. Every path leads to a different place. Si Minghan explained as he pointed to those few small paths that leads to the physical fitness training ground, that leads to the endurance training ground, and that leads to... He pointed one by one. Devil class's students' eyes were filled with astonishment. Class of Gods really had all the facilities. Every training ground was specially built for this purpose, and all kinds of entertainment facilities. After Si Minghan finished pointing, his gaze shifted to Tong Ziqing, who had been following behind expressionlessly, and blinked. How is it? Are you satisfied with my explanation? Feel that your gift of thanks is worth it, right? The handsome young man was extremely refreshing. Tong Ziqing was slightly stunned, not knowing why. Seeing Si Minghan's blinking look, that refreshing smile, she actually thought of 2 words. Clean. Sunshine. Right? Si Mingan's smile was extremely pure and clean, and there was a kind of look of a battle pet trying to please its master. Moreover, his entire person was like a beam of sunshine. When he smiled, she actually felt warm in her heart. Lead the way. Please lead the way properly. Don't disturb my brother. Long Yunjan's body suddenly blocked in front of Tong Ziqing. He looked at Si Minghan expressionlessly, warning him. Si Mingan's brows rose as his smile disappeared. Brother? A real brother wouldn't specially disturb his brother's love, right when it's about to arrive? Just you? The first time you see Ziqing and you're talking about love? Long Yunjan shot a cold glance at Si Minghan. Haven't you heard of love at first sight? Si Minghan wasn't the slightest bit embarrassed as he said straightforwardly, At first sight, I'm already moved by this little beauty. His straightforwardness and no bashfulness made the other students in Devil class suck in a breath of cold air. As for Long Yunjan, he only stared coldly at Si Minghan. The expression on his face was still expressionless, but Yiqing Luo could clearly feel it. Long Yunjan's imposing manner, at this moment, dropped to the freezing point, and Tong Ziqing, who was standing behind Long Yunjan, after hearing Si Minggan's words, couldn't help but be stunned. At first sight, she was moved. Si Minghan saw the surprise in her beautiful eyes. Si Minghan chuckled. Little beauty, don't tell me you don't believe in love at first sight. Love at first sight. Tong Ziqing's eyelashes trembled slightly. The moment he looked up, he saw a figure blocking his way. For some reason, his eyes felt a little sour. She forced herself to hold it in and said in a hoarse voice, I believe you. How could he not believe it? She fell in love with Long Yunjan at first sight. Once they saw each other, it was hard to forget. Ziqing. Long Yunjan frowned slightly and turned to look at the woman behind him in confusion. His azure eyes gazed deeply at her. He also saw the redness in the woman's eyes. There was an inexplicable sense of irritation in his heart. There was a hint of impatience on his calm face. Did you also fall in love with him at first sight? He was protecting her, but she, on the contrary, spoke up for that lecherous wastrel? Tong Ziqing's red lips moved. Her beautiful eyes, which were slightly misty, clearly reflected the impatience on his face. Her heart felt a dull pain as her eyelids drooped. Class monitor, you can dislike me, but please don't insult my feelings towards you. She pushed Long Yunjan aside and walked past him, taking quick steps forward. Chapter 2212. Tong Ziqing glanced coldly at his outstretched hand and directly ignored it. Go to the academy and report to master. Si Minghan wasn't embarrassed at all. Instead, he smiled even more joyfully. All right, little beauty, whatever you say, I'll listen to little beauty's arrangements. His playful look didn't make Tong Ziqing's expression ease up at all. She followed behind Si Minghan expressionlessly as they walked towards one of the small paths. Si Minghan had been whispering amusing words beside Tong Ziqing's ear as he kept on laughing. Tong Ziqing's cold attitude didn't affect Si Minghan at all. The other students in Devil class looked at the two of them who were 10 steps away from them. One cold and one hot, one noisy and one quiet. Somehow they felt. There was a very compatible feeling. Their goddess Ziqing had always been cold and aloof. Towards any strangers, she wouldn't show any face at all. But she actually walked so close to a man whom she had just met for the first time. This was the first time in her life. The students subconsciously turned their gazes towards Long Yunjan. To tell the truth, their goddess Ziqing liked the class monitor, but they had never thought highly of it, not to mention the class monitor's character. If the two of them were to be together, wouldn't they create a cold atmosphere for each other every day? Moreover, the class monitor apparently had no thoughts on this aspect. He didn't even reciprocate the goddess's love. To a lady, how cruel was this treatment? Why are you looking at me? Long Yunjan's expression was gloomy, as his azure blue eyes flashed with blue light, as though it was decorated with ice crystals. He was still the same, expressionless and extremely apathetic. But those students who had interacted with Long Yunjan for a long time could clearly feel that Long Yunjan's low pressure could directly freeze someone to death. In case the brothers froze to death, Yi Qing Luo walked briskly to Long Yunjan's side as she lightly patted his shoulder. "Ah, Jean, do you think that Si Minghan is reliable?" Long Yunjan's body stiffened. He glanced sideways as he looked at the little hand on his shoulder. His heart suddenly quivered. His gaze subconsciously looked towards Tong Ziqing's direction. Coincidentally, Tong Ziqing's gaze was also looking at him. After sensing his gaze, Tong Ziqing immediately retracted her gaze as her eyelids drooped downwards. Long Yunjan's body stiffened even more. "Ah, Jean!" Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she looked suspiciously at the silent Long Yunjan. Could it be that Si Minghan had used too much force on Tong Ziqing, causing Long Yunjan to lose his mind? I'm fine." Long Yunjan's eyes moved slightly as a sliver of panic flashed past. He raised his hand and moved Yi Qing Luo's hand away from his shoulder. "Si Minghan, that fellow, his actions are frivolous. One look, and I know he's a frivolous playboy. I don't trust him." Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled up as she smiled sweetly. "Are you sure that it's because he's frivolous, so you don't believe him?" "What else did you think it was?" Long Yunjan replied quickly. Yi Qing Luo smiled without saying a word. One had to know that Long Yunjan was a cold person with a poker face. Nothing seemed to leave any trace in his heart. No matter what happened, he was calm and indifferent, as if he did not care much. But on the matter of Si Minghan, his attitude was completely different now. If he didn't have Tong Ziqing in his heart, even if she was beaten to death, she wouldn't believe it. But Long Yunjan, this little dragon, seemed to be too slow towards matters of the heart. Chapter 22:13. Love it wasn't appropriate for outsiders to interfere. To understand one's own heart, the most important thing was to face it squarely. Si Minghan kept an eye on Tong Ziqing's emotions. His gaze swept across Long Yunjan's body as he lowered his voice and asked with a smile, "Little beauty, do you like him?" Tong Ziqing's eyes flashed, and she lowered her head, ignoring Si Minghan. Si Minghan laughed to himself. "Little beauty, didn't he just deny that you're his woman? That means he doesn't feel that way about you. Why don't you be with me?" He raised his brows and struck a pose that he thought was extraordinarily handsome. He smiled brightly at her. "In terms of looks, I don't lose to him. In terms of strength, I think I'm stronger than him. Also, I'm a student of the class of gods, and I can help you with your cultivation. Even if you want to stay in the class of gods, I have that ability." Tong Ziqing stopped in her tracks. Si Minghan's eyes lit up, and his smile grew even brighter. "Little beauty, you're a smart man. You should know who you choose to be truly happy with." Si Minghan reached out to grab Tong Ziqing's shoulder. Before he could get close, his arm went numb. Tong Ziqing's palm landed on his arm. The woman's expression was cold, and her eyes were cold, without a hint of emotion. "Si Minghan, do you understand me? Is it my face that you like, or are you trying to trick me?" Si Minghan hugged his numb arm. Tong Ziqing's palm wasn't vicious, but the numbing feeling was unbearable. He lifted his eyes and looked at Tong Ziqing's face. The mischievous smile on his face was replaced by a serious expression. "I really don't understand you, but I'm interested in you, not because of your face, nor do I want to tease you." He paused, then continued, "I've said it before, I fell in love with you at first sight, not for any other reason, but because I felt my heart move the moment I laid eyes on you." First sight, feeling my heart move. These two sentences echoed in Tong Ziqing's mind. Yes, she had also decided that Long Yunjan was the man she wanted to follow the moment she laid eyes on him. She didn't doubt that Si Minghan's feelings were fake. She could even sympathize with him. But her eyelashes fluttered and her eyes were cold. She looked at Si Minghan indifferently. But Si Minghan, if you really fell in love with me at first sight, you wouldn't have said those words to me. In Si Minghan's heart, she was the kind of woman who would sell herself to another man just because Si Minghan was stronger than Long Yunjian in every aspect. She was the kind of woman who would sell herself to another man just to raise her profound level or stay in the class of gods. Then his love for her was really cheap. Si Minghan froze. That's not what I meant. Whether you mean that or not, please don't bother me anymore. Tong Ziqing coldly glanced at him. Si Minghan pursed his lips and opened his mouth to say something. But when he looked at the faintly discernible hall in front of him, he suppressed the restlessness in his heart and said in a low voice, "Little beauty, I will use my actions to prove that I am serious about you." After saying that, he suddenly quickened his pace and headed straight for the direction of the academy. In the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared. The few students from Devil class looked at the direction where Si Minghan disappeared in astonishment. What were they talking about? Chapter 22:14. We're already at the classroom. Curb your curiosity and show your best state. Yi Qing Luo looked at the direction where Si Minghan left, and her eyes sunk slightly. From Si Minghan, we should be able to tell that the status of the class of gods in the Heavenly Academy is beyond our imagination. Moreover, the teachers of the class of gods are also from the upper realm. Towards ordinary students like us, they will definitely not give us any face. What we need to do is to learn how to improve ourselves in the class of gods so that we can become stronger. If there's any unhappiness, bear with it as long as you can. Of course, there's a limit to this tolerance. Once it exceeds that limit, needless to say, I'll do it myself. I still have the same old saying, we don't create trouble, but we're not afraid of trouble either. After Yi Qing Luo finished her last sentence, her charming eyes swept across the few of them in the devil class. The few of them immediately nodded solemnly. We understand. Yi Qing Luo led the few of them towards the classroom. Long Yunjian was still in a trance. When Yi Qing Luo and the rest had already walked more than 10 steps, he then reacted and quickly caught up with Yi Qing Luo's footsteps. Yi Qing Luo gave him a meaningful look, as she gave an ambiguous smile. In Long Yunjian's heart, an inexplicable feeling of guilt welled up. Walking to the classroom entrance, Yi Qing Luo's gaze immediately surveyed the surroundings. The classroom was extremely spacious. Inside, there were neat and tidy white wooden study desks. Books were stacked on top of each study desk. More than 10 students dressed in white were leisurely sitting in the classroom, seemingly discussing something. A white-haired and white-browed elder stood at the desk where the headmaster was teaching. In front of him was Si Minghan. No one knew what topic the both of them were discussing. The elderly man's expression was rather grave. When Yi Qing Luo and the rest stood at the entrance, the students in the class of gods immediately sensed their presence. At that moment, the entire hall fell into silence. All the students in the class of gods shifted their gazes towards the classroom entrance. The 11 young men and women stood at the classroom entrance, all dressed in blazing red class uniforms, like billowing flames and auspicious clouds, making one unable to take their eyes off of them. And the most eye-catching was the young lady at the front. Her red robe was like fire, without any other adornments. Her black hair was like a waterfall, tied into a simple bun, held in place by a wooden hairpin. Her loose black hair fluttered in the wind. She had a face that could topple cities, a bright smile, and an otherworldly temperament. She was the most dazzling existence among the 11 of them. A look of awe flashed across the eyes of the 10 or so class of God students. The old man also turned his gaze over. He was also slightly startled. The old man had naturally heard of the matter of the 11 devil class students going to the class of gods for special training in the Heavenly Academy. However, he didn't expect it. These 11 devil class students actually had such a terrifying aura. These children were only 15 or 16 years old. How could he have such a powerful aura? Very quickly, the elderly retracted his gaze, and with a deep meaning in his old eyes, he opened his mouth in a dignified manner. "A student of the devil class, right? Come in." Yi Ching Luo took the lead to walk in as she curled her lips towards the elderly man and spoke respectfully and politely. "This must be the teacher in class of gods, Teacher Yu. Every time my master, the ghost doctor, mentions you, he would sigh that he has no fate to compete with you." Chapter 22:15. Yi Ching Luo nodded with a smile. "Yes, my master is ghost doctor." Teacher Yi's gaze towards Yi Ching Luo had some changes. In Yi Ching Luo's mind, the words which ghost doctor had said to her were reversed once again. My master also said, "In this heavenly academy, the only one who could make him admire is you, Teacher Yi." Before coming to the class of gods, ghost doctor and old man Gue, you had specially chatted with her privately about some matters regarding the class of gods, to prevent Yi Ching Luo from being bullied in the class of gods. The two of them even specially told Yi Ching Luo all the information they knew about the teachers in class of gods. Regarding EU and teacher, in actual fact, ghost doctor had viciously criticized teacher. But this insult, Yi Ching Luo could feel it. The relationship between ghost doctor and teacher should be considered as not bad. That was why she had purposely dragged the ghost doctor out to show her face to teacher E. At least in the coming month, at least on account of ghost doctor, teacher E would more or less not be perfunctory about the devil classes, special training. After all, these were the experts from the upper realm, facing the special training of students who weren't their favorite. They would definitely not put it to heart. Yi Ching Luo specially came to the class of gods. She wanted these brothers of hers to have a better chance of advancement, only by raising their own abilities. In future, she could head to the upper realm with a peace of mind. Good. Ghost doctor's disciple. That old man actually took in a disciple. Teacher Yi's eyes shone brightly as he sized up Yi Ching Luo. "You are alchemist? What level are you at?" Yi Ching Luo smiled elegantly. "My main focus is on raising my profound grade and my own ability. So my alchemist level is currently preparing to break through to a Grandmaster Alchemist." Grandmaster Alchemist? Just a junior alchemist, and Ghost Doctor took her in as a disciple? He was very clear about Ghost Doctor's character. Someone who was afraid of trouble. How could he possibly take in a Grandmaster Alchemist as a disciple? Could it be that this student had heard from somewhere that he and Ghost Doctor were old acquaintances, so she intentionally mentioned Ghost Doctor, hoping that he would take care of her on account of Ghost Doctor's feelings? This thought caused Teacher E to frown deeply. It was no wonder that the people of the lower realm could only be inferior to others. At such a young age, he was already thinking of crooked ways. A trace of displeasure flashed across Teacher Yi's eyes as he casually waved his hand. "All right, it doesn't matter if you're the ghost doctor's disciple or the dean's disciple. In any case, you're now in the class of gods, standing in the class of gods territory. You're just an ordinary student." He paused for a moment and then emphasized, "A student who can only stay for a month." Devil classes students. Teacher Yi's attitude changed so quickly. Just a moment ago, he was still discussing about Ghost Doctor with Yi Ching Luo, as though they were having a good time. In the next instant, his expression changed. He even emphasized that they could only stay for a month. He made it sound like they were going to shamelessly stay in the class of gods and never leave. Yi Ching Luo frowned slightly. She noticed the changes in Teacher Yi's emotions. Just now, when Teacher Yi heard about the Ghost Doctor, his attitude became slightly better, but immediately after, it was filled with disgust. It was obvious that he wasn't venting his anger on them because he hated the Ghost Doctor. Teacher Yi might have misunderstood something, but Yi Ching Luo had no intention to explain. To these proud and arrogant people, it was impossible for them to do anything. Chapter 22:16. What teacher, Yi said, is right. Yi Qing Luo smiled slightly. Teacher Yi frowned as he stared at the extremely beautiful face in front of him. There was a strange feeling surging in his heart. This young lady's looks were out of this world. Compared to the ladies he had seen in the upper realm, she was several times more beautiful. This kind of beauty wasn't just her outer appearance, but the kind of temperament that she exuded. A peerless temperament. No matter what he said, the young lady would always smile humbly and warmly, as though she totally didn't care what he said. She regarded him as the headmaster whom she respected, even though he knew that this young lady was opportunistic and did some unorthodox things to get his attention. But he still didn't hate this young lady. I guess this must be the female boss of Devil Class, student Yi Qing Luo. Suddenly, a lady's sarcastic voice floated from below the counter. An extremely beautiful female student in white clothes stood up. The female student's temperament was outstanding, and her looks were outstanding, coupled with the self-confidence that she exuded. If she was in the academy, she would absolutely crush that Zi Qianqian into dregs. Student Yi Qing Luo is quite famous in the academy this year. Every corner of the academy is discussing about student Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo is so powerful, I really admire her. The female student scoffed lightly as her lips curled into a sneer. In the coming month, I hope I have the chance to have a good spar with student Yi Qing Luo. Playing such a big game the moment she opened her mouth, but she liked it. Yi Qing Luo looked at the female student with a warm smile. I also have the same intention. Devil Class's students have always admired the students from Class of God and have long wanted to have a showdown with the students from Class of God. If there's this chance, our Devil Class will definitely be very happy. When she said that, not only that female student's expression changed, even the other 10 over students from Class of Gods had a change of expression. Devil Class students, weren't they too daring? They actually wanted to compete with them? Just based on a bunch of trash like them? It was simply a waste of their time. This group of Devil Class students had obtained too much glory in Heavenly Academy, so they were so inflated that they couldn't extricate themselves. Yan Yu. Si Minghan, who was standing beside teacher Yi, scolded the female student in a low voice. Don't bring the rumors from the outside into the Class of God and ruin the atmosphere here. A trace of resentment appeared on the pretty face of the female student named Yan Yu. Si Minghan, what right do you have to criticize me? Just for that bunch of trash? I'm telling you, don't meddle in this matter. You're a student of the Class of Gods, yet you're so overbearing towards students from other classes who came for special training. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that you were always paying attention to the students from other classes, worried that this student Yi Qing Luo would surpass you. Si Minghan mocked with a hidden meaning. His words had clearly pierced Yan Yu's heart. Yan Yu's expression changed drastically. She slammed the table and flew toward Si Minghan. She raised her palm and attacked Si Minghan. Devil Class students, they started fighting just like that? The Devil Class students turned their heads in unison and looked at teacher Yi. Heavenly Academy absolutely did not allow students to kill each other. Was it really all right for them to start fighting in front of teacher Yi? Unexpectedly, teacher Yi actually took a step back and gave up the battlefield to them. Chapter 22:17. What was going on? Could it be that in the Class of Gods, students were allowed to kill each other? Bam! A loud sound was heard as the table was split into pieces. Si Minghan lazily avoided Yan Yu's attack as he glanced at her disapprovingly. Don't waste your energy and time. I'm not interested in fighting with you. Yan Yu put on a humiliated look as she gritted her teeth and attacked again. Instantly, the classroom was filled with the sound of ping-pong fighting. The students in Class of Gods looked as though they were used to it. Devil Class's students stared at the two of them exchanging blows, memorizing the techniques and details of the two of them. As for Yi Qing Luo, She was recalling the conversation between Si Ming Han and Yan Yu. It seemed that the amount of information was a little too much. Yan Yu asked Si Ming Han to mind less about this matter. This matter was obviously related to their devil class. Yan Yu wanted to deal with devil class? Why? Their class of devils seemed to mind their own business with the class of gods, right? Moreover, the class of gods had such a high status. They must be proud and arrogant. They would absolutely not cross paths with the devil class, which was known as Trash Class 1, right? Yi Qing Luo was deep in thought. Teacher Yi, on the other hand, was sizing up the students of the devil class. Seeing them staring at the two who were still entangled with each other, their eyes gleaming. Somehow, this bunch of youngsters who looked extremely young and had no talent seemed to be learning the moves and techniques of the two who were entangled with each other. I shouldn't be able to understand such profound things. Just at this moment, suddenly a deep and furious roar was heard from outside the classroom. "What are you bunch of rascals doing? Didn't Yun Duan, that old fogey, say that he would send the top class students to the class of gods today? Why are you still making a ruckus? Are you trying to let the outsiders see us as a joke?" Following that, a bam sound was heard. The classroom's door was kicked open. A fat old man dressed in a loose white robe walked in while rubbing his fat tummy. The two who were entangled with each other immediately stood apart. The entire place was silent. Even teacher, he could not help but straighten his back. The chubby old man's gaze fell on the 11 people standing by the table. The students from the class that won first place have already arrived. He raised his chubby palm and touched the back of his head. Since you're here, follow me to your place to rest. You'll officially begin your special training in the afternoon. The devil class, students could tell. This chubby old man had an important position in the class of gods. They nodded and said, "Thank you, headmaster." The fat old man smiled, the fat on both sides of his face piling up. "I'm the physical training master of the class of gods. They call me Fat Master or Fat Elder. You guys can call me that too." The devil class students looked at each other and said in unison, "Fatty teacher, let's go. I'll take you to where you'll be staying for the next month. You are here for special training. You must seize every moment you have and not waste your time," the fat teacher said as he turned around and walked out of the classroom. Yi Qing Luo bade farewell to teacher Yi and led the devil class of students to follow them out. The fat teacher looked very approachable, and his tone was very down to earth. There was no trace of the upper realm's aloofness. Chapter 22:18. Yi Qing Luo had the same feeling in her heart. This fatty master was definitely not as approachable as he appeared to be now. It was very clear from the attitude of the students in the class of gods towards fatty master. The 11 of them remained silent. Even Yi Qing Luo didn't speak a word. Only the fat teacher explained the rules of the class of gods in a concise and comprehensive manner. He didn't care if these students in devil class listened to him or not, nor did he care if the students in devil class would respond to him. As long as he did his job well, that was enough. When they returned to the forked entrance, the fat teacher stopped in his tracks and asked calmly, "Before you came, some students had already pointed out the places that these paths lead to, right?" The students in devil class were stunned as they nodded in puzzlement. Fatty Master moved his body away. "Which road is the direction to the dormitory?" The students in devil class understood that this was a test of their memory. Anai Ruo Pan pointed to a small path. "This is the road that leads to the dormitory." Fatty Master's gaze paused on Anai Ruo Pan for a moment before he nodded, but no expression could be seen on that fat face of his. The other students in devil class felt their hearts tighten slightly. The fat master squinted his eyes and said, "So, have you memorized the other paths?" The students in devil class looked at each other in dismay. After receiving Yi Qing Luo's gaze, the few students began to point one by one towards a road. "This is the direction to the physical fitness training ground. This is the direction to the endurance training ground. This is one sentence at a time. Without any mistakes, all the roads were pointed out. The fats on Fatty Master's face jiggled, as if he didn't expect these students to be able to remember all the complicated passages here clearly. One must know that in the past years, they were all elite students who were selected from the high profound class. These students, every time they entered the class of gods, it was as if they had entered some strange place. Towards anyone, they would be fawning. Towards anything, they would be shocked and curious. Totally not a single bit, as though they were here for special training. Every time he asked those students, where did these small paths lead to? Those students would all be at a loss. This was the first batch of people who were able to accurately memorize these routes. It seemed that other than the high profound class, there were other elite students in the Heavenly Academy. The fat teacher did not speak again. He stroked his plump chin, lifted his leg, and walked to a remote path on the far right. That seems to be the path to the combat training forest. Fat teacher, are we going to the dormitory? Before the devil class students could even say the word ma. The fat teacher had already walked on that path and had no intention of turning back. Devil class's students looked at each other. Was the fatty teacher satisfied or dissatisfied that they could remember these paths? If they were afraid that they, the non-God students, would be dissatisfied with the class of gods' route after memorizing it, there was nothing they could do. Under Yi Qing Luo's training, they had long formed the habit of memorizing the surrounding topography, no matter where they went. They remembered every single one of these forked paths clearly. He couldn't forget it, even if he wanted to. Let's go. Yi Qing Luo didn't understand the fat teacher's meaning, but she knew clearly that choosing these small paths and identifying the direction which the small paths led to were just a small test. From the moment they entered the class of gods. Chapter 2219. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, the devil class's students no longer hesitated as they followed behind Fatty. This was the path to the actual combat training forest. As they walked, the surrounding trees became more and more luxuriant. After walking for about the time it took to burn a stick of incense, the surroundings were already densely packed, extremely luxuriant, towering trees. As far as the eye could see, branches were connected to branches, leaves were connected to leaves. Tiny sparks of light shone through the gaps between the tiny leaves. The ground was covered with fragmented light. Following behind the fat teacher, they turned left and right for a while in the lush forest. Fatty's footsteps stopped on an empty patch of grass. This was probably the only place in the entire forest that was not covered with trees. It was about the size of a training ground. There were remnants of ashes around and a piece of cleared space in the middle. There were also leftover wood, which should be traces of a campsite. Apparently, this was a place where the students from the class of God would occasionally stay, and the time they stayed was not short. What was Fatty trying to do by bringing them here? This will be the place where you will be staying for the next month. Fatty pointed to the empty patch of grass and said calmly, "Stay here." Yen Xiaoyi frowned. Fatty nodded as his eyes shone brightly. "You are here for special training, not to have fun. This is also a part of the special training. Don't tell me. You can't take this hardship, right?" Yen Xiaoyi frowned. "This is not a matter of whether we can take the hardship or not. It's not impossible for you to let us stay here, but you can't not give us anything, right? If it was outside or on the battlefield, do you think the enemy will prepare what you want for you?" Fatty narrowed his eyes and replied calmly, "You." Yen Xiaoyi had no words to refute. "Xiaoyi." Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and stopped Yen Xiaoyi. She slowly walked up and looked at Fatty Master calmly. "We understand. We will stay here. Thank you, Fatty Master, for your trouble." A greasy smile appeared on the Fat Master's oily face. His narrow eyes carefully sized up the female student in front of him. From the first sight of this young lady, he could feel that she was different. It could also be seen that this young lady was the backbone of the students in Devil class. He had heard of this group of students before. It was once a famous class of trash, and each of the students had suffered a lot of oppression and humiliation, causing their personalities to become abnormally twisted. To be able to make that group of problematic students submit to a young girl, this really made people want to find out what method this young lady used to subdue the Devil class. Then have a good rest. After noon, you will train together with the students from the class of God. Fatty Master withdrew his scrutinizing gaze from Yi Ching Luo. Although you are students of the class of devils, you are, after all, elite students who have fought your way up through several rounds of competition. Even if you train with the students of the class of gods, you don't need to feel too much pressure. Just maintain a normal state of mind. The Devil class students did not feel any pressure as they responded in unison. The fat teacher glanced at the students one by one. Remember to report to the fitness training ground after noon. After saying this, the fat teacher turned around and left. Without waiting for the Devil class students to stop him, Fatty Teacher's figure had already disappeared into the dense forest. Chapter 2220. This is also a part of the special training. Everyone stop talking and start to build the place that we will be sleeping in for the next month. Yi Ching Luo looked around. All right, it's not our first time camping outside, using the sky as our cover and the ground as our hut. There's still 4 hours before noon. Let's make use of the time to set up camp. Devil class's students were wailing incessantly, but their actions were starting to set up camp in an orderly manner for the place that they were going to sleep at. They should be thankful that, ever since they followed Yi Ching Luo to complete the mission in the magic beast forest, they had developed a habit of bringing along a space pocket specially prepared for camping. From the pocket, they took out the tents, bedding, and some simple daily necessities. Then they divided the work. One by one, the tents started to be set up. A few masters who were far away in classroom Ren were currently gathered in front of a stone which was about the size of a table. Above that stone was impressively the scene where Yi Ching Luo and the rest were training in the forest. Fatty Master touched the 2 pieces of fat on his face as he smacked his lips. Originally, I wanted to make things difficult for this bunch of students, but I didn't expect that. They were already prepared. Ha ha ha. Only this bunch of students would bring along camping equipment with them. Another master who was leaning lazily against the wall, Master Shinqing, gave a sloppy laugh. To tell the truth, since the establishment of the class of gods, they had never seen any foreign students who were able to spend a month in the class of gods safely. This class, called the Devil class, was really interesting. In their imagination, this bunch of students should be asking them for help soon, but they had not expected that they actually brought along their own camping equipment. And looking at their actions of setting up camp, searching for firewood, starting a fire, etc., they were so familiar with it that they looked like wanderers who were out all year round. This year's special training, I feel that it's much more interesting. Master, he stroked his beard, although he didn't like Yi Ching Luo's character, but towards her and the rest's unperturbed attitude, he admired it very much. The few of them pointed at the stone and discussed. They sighed inwardly at the familiarity of these students towards camping. At this moment, a gentle voice suddenly sounded from behind him. What? You bunch of teachers with your eyes growing on top of your heads are actually interested in the students of the Devil class who are known as the Trash Class 1? A few of the masters turned around and saw a lady in her 30s walking gracefully towards them with graceful steps. When the teachers saw the girl, they moved away. The students in this class are indeed not ordinary. Come over and take a look. I guarantee that you will be attracted by this group of students. The woman snorted and stepped forward disapprovingly. Coincidentally, the image of Yi Ching Luo pointing to a tent appeared on the stone, talking to a student about something. The lady's vision was fixed on Yi Ching Luo's face. Her expression suddenly froze. By May, do you know this female student? Teacher, he noticed the change in the girl's expression and asked casually. The girl pursed her red lips, curled her fingers, and shook her head. I don't know her, but this female student is too beautiful. It makes me doubt her ability. We have a lot of time to verify her ability. If it's a bunch of mud that can't even hold up the wall, then we don't need to waste time. Master Xin Qing shrugged his shoulders, disapproving. Chapter 22-21. The three of them looked at by May's hurried back as a trace of suspicion flashed past their eyes. Earlier, when Bai Mei saw one of the devil class's students' face, she obviously revealed a strange expression. Bai Mei knew that student called Yi Qing Luo, but why would she deny it? Forget it, a woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. We are all men, we can't guess a woman's thoughts. Teacher Xin Qing stretched lazily and couldn't be bothered to think further. Teacher, he stroked his white beard. Ever since those two came to the class of gods, Bai Mei's thoughts were all on them. She should be in a hurry to meet them. At the mention of those two, the faces of the other two teachers turned ugly. Practice makes perfect. These 4 words perfectly explained how Yi Qing Luo and the others managed to settle all the camping matters in less than 2 hours. Looking at the 11 tents in front of them, the devil class students wiped their sweat. If we can't survive in the future, we can still help others to set up tents to make a living. Useless. The devil class students rolled their eyes. The few students started to laugh and joke around. Yi Qing Luo stood under a big tree and drank the water from the water bag. She made use of this period of time to get a general understanding of the environment here. This place was similar to the Heavenly Academy's Heavenly Training Forest. But compared to the one in the Heavenly Academy, this place was even more torturous. This grassland should be specially made by the few teachers in the class of gods to train the students, to provide a place for the students to rest. The surroundings of this grassland were also set up with enchantments. If one didn't sense it carefully, one wouldn't be able to detect it. Setting up camp on this grassland, there was no need to worry about being attacked by the magical beasts. But out of this grassland, for example, they were on the way to other places in the class of gods. That might not be the case. The magical beasts here were at least intermediate and advanced level magical beasts. If they met, although it wouldn't affect them much, but it would be too troublesome. Yi Qing Luo expressed that her Qi and her Qi Yan were not awake yet. Otherwise, they could use the sacred beast's power to suppress those magical beasts, which would save them a lot of trouble. Everyone take a break. We have special training with the students in the class of gods in the afternoon. The intensity of the special training here should be more tiring than in the lower realm. So, seize the time to rest and face the challenge in the afternoon. From the fatty teacher's attitude, she could roughly guess. The afternoon would not be so relaxing. At the other end of the classroom, the 3 masters couldn't hear anything. They could only read Yi Qing Luo's lips and knew what she was saying. Teacher, he stroked his white beard and said, "This young lady has good leadership skills at such a young age. If she is properly nurtured, she will definitely become someone great in the future." The other 2 headmasters did not respond. After that, their pupils constricted. The red-clothed girl in the stone spoke again, word by word. "You'll be training with the class of gods students in the afternoon. Since you're new here, don't even think about showing off. In any case, he's a student taught by a powerhouse from the upper realm. We should at least save him some face." Teacher Yi's eyes widened. Did he see wrongly? Teacher Xin Qing squinted his lazy eyes and stared intently at the girl with a serious face inside the stone. The fat teacher, on the other hand, held the fat on both sides of his cheeks. His eyes, which were like slits, did not reveal any extra emotions. This girl, where did she get her confidence from? She actually said, "Leave some face for the students in the class of gods?" Chapter 22-22. It was almost noon. The devil class's students didn't expect the class of gods to prepare lunch for them. The 11 of them huddled together and took out their rations and water bags from their space pockets to replenish their energy. After they finished eating, Yi Qing Luo calculated the time. There was about half an hour left, which was 30 minutes. She wiped her hands and stood up. Let's walk to the physical fitness training ground to digest the food. The 10 Devil class students immediately stood up. By the time the 11 of them arrived at the physical fitness training ground, it was not noon yet. There were 15 students dressed in white standing at the training ground. 3 masters stood at the outer perimeter of the training ground. When they saw Yi Qing Luo and the rest rushing over before the time limit, their faces revealed a look of astonishment. It was especially so for the fatty teacher. His tiny eyes were like slits, but one could see the surprise in the depths of his sparkling eyes. He had personally brought the Devil class's students to the actual combat training forest. He was the clearest about the terrain there, because these students had clearly remembered the directions of the few small paths in the class of gods. He had purposely brought along a winding path in the actual combat training forest. He didn't specifically say that he wouldn't be picking them up for the afternoon training. He just wanted to test if the Devil class's students' memory was really heaven-defying to be able to remember all the terrain. Fatty Master was sure. Even if the students from the class of gods were here, they might not be able to remember the exit of the forest clearly. But the Devil class's students did it. Moreover, he did it without any difficulty at all. Sorry to have kept you waiting. Yi Qing Luo saw quite a number of people standing at the training ground the moment she arrived and immediately led the students forward. Fatty Master's fats trembled. No problem. You all arrived within the stipulated time. Yi Qing Luo smiled modestly. Master Shin Qing lifted his eyelids lazily. Speaking of which, little fellows, have you had your lunch? Fatty old man's special training is very brutal. If you haven't had your lunch, you might die of exhaustion on the training ground. My special training is brutal? What nonsense are you talking about? Fat Master stared fiercely at Teacher Shinqing before shifting his vision onto Yi Qing Luo and the rest. But what that old man said is right. If you haven't had your lunch, you should hurry up and eat now. The special training in the afternoon is more physical, and if you haven't completed the mission, you're not allowed to leave the training ground, and you're not allowed to eat. Do you hear me? Yi Qing Luo continued to smile modestly. We have already eaten our rations. Thank you for your concern. We understand the rules of the special training, and we have no objections. The way the 3 masters looked at the Devil class was getting weirder and weirder. This foreign class of students was really different from the previous years. Such a student, why would he be in the Devil class with the reputation of Trash Class 1? Since everyone is here, let's start the special training now. Students, stand properly. The fat teacher looked at the few of them and suddenly shouted. Then he raised his hand and pointed towards the direction of the Devil class students. All of you, stand over there. He then pointed to where the students of the class of gods were standing. The Devil class's students walked over. Before they got close, they heard Yan Yu's sarcastic voice. Stay away from us, a bunch of trash. Don't drag down our class of gods. The Devil class's students stopped in their tracks. Tong Ziqing raised her beautiful eyes, and her icy cold gaze swept past Yan Yu's face. Chapter 22-23. Yan Yu was pierced by her gaze, and her beautiful face twisted into a hideous expression. You useless thing! How dare you look at me like that? Believe it or not, I will dig your eyes out. Tong Ziqing's lips curled into a smile, which didn't look like a smile as she sneered. The quality of the students in the class of gods really makes me look at you differently. What did you say? The students behind Yan Yu bellowed angrily. Tong Ziqing's red lips twitched in disdain as she said, word by word, it seems that not only the quality of the students in the class of gods is worrisome, their brains aren't that good either. Trash from the Devil class. You. Tong Ziqing's words made the students in the class of gods fly into a rage. In the eyes of the students in the class of gods, this bunch of students from the devil class were just a bunch of lowly ants, a bunch of useless things. They couldn't be bothered to have any friction with these ants and useless things. This bunch of useless things weren't worthy of their attention. But Tong Ziqing's words were obviously looking down on the class of gods. They, the dignified students of the class of gods, were actually humiliated by a piece of trash. But just as Yan Yu and a few familiar students were about to teach the devil class a lesson, Teacher Yi bellowed in a deep voice, "Enough! What are you all doing?" This bellow made the students in the class of gods restrain their temper unwillingly. They stared at the devil class students with hatred before retracting their gaze and lowered their heads, obediently not daring to say another word. Teacher Yi frowned as he swept his gaze across the students in the class of gods. Following that, his gaze fell onto Tong Ziqing. "This student, you came to the class of gods to undergo special training. If you don't have the heart to undergo special training, my class of gods will not be able to accommodate you." "Teacher." Si Ming Han stood out from the class of gods student area and called out in a low voice. But he was stared back by Teacher Yi's fierce glare. Tong Ziqing remained expressionless, as though she wasn't affected at all by Teacher Yi's words. This nonchalant look made Teacher Yi feel a surge of anger. Just as he was about to open his mouth, he saw Yiqing Luo walking slowly towards Tong Ziqing. The corners of her lips curled up, and she smiled calmly. "Teacher Yi, what Ziqing said actually makes sense." Teacher Yi's face darkened. Yiqing Luo didn't seem to have noticed, or perhaps she had noticed, but she didn't care much and continued. "Class of God students are the brightest glory of the Heavenly Academy, representing the existence of the entire Heavenly Academy. As a representative student of the Heavenly Academy, she had such a low quality and was always arrogant. It's fine within the Academy, but if this gets out, wouldn't we become a laughingstock? Students from the class of gods are spoiled and arrogant." Yiqing Luo's voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. He spat out each word slowly and steadily. The words that entered his ears couldn't be any clearer. Teacher Yi opened his mouth, but found himself unable to refute Yiqing Luo's words. It was a fact that Yan Yu was the first to provoke the devil class students. Indeed, it was Yan Yu who was too arrogant. The class of gods was in the wrong here. "There's one more thing." Yiqing Luo's smile grew brighter and brighter. Her charming eyes glowed brilliantly and flowed with light, causing her charming and drop-dead gorgeous face to seem like a blooming rose, and she emitted an unparalleled charm that captivated the soul. She stared unblinkingly at the students from the class of gods. She was obviously so charming and alluring. But the students from the class of gods could sense the contempt and ridicule from Yiqing Luo's smile. Chapter 22-24. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she slowly opened her mouth. "From what I see, the students in the class of gods have occupied the school's abundant resources, which resulted in your current ability. I wonder, where did you get your sense of superiority from? Feeling that you're a cut above the rest?" She paused for a moment and dragged the last syllable as she ridiculed coldly. "Oh, is it from the fact that you have many times more abundant resources than the other students that you find a sense of superiority?" Yan Yu stared at Yiqing Luo as her petite body trembled in anger. Yiqing Luo smiled brilliantly. "Don't be in a hurry to fly into a rage out of humiliation. This student, as a member of the devil class, I have to be very serious and solemn to tell you something. Just like what Teacher Yi said, our devil class came to the class of gods for a month of special training. As outsiders, we are not so silly as to have any conflict with the students of the class of gods when we just arrived. I think there shouldn't be anything in our devil class that is worth a student of the class of gods like you to waste your time to ridicule and humiliate us, right? Of course, even if you have this time, it doesn't mean that the other students have this time, nor does it mean that our devil class has this time. I sincerely hope that this student you can stand on the reputation of the class of gods and stop wasting everyone's time, all right? Yi Qing Luo's voice was sweet and her tone was calm, with a gentle and courteous smile. Yan Yu was so angry that her pretty face twisted. You lowly trash! How dare you humiliate me? I want. Yan Yu. Teacher Yi's face was steely green as he berated her. Did Yan Yu feel that she had not embarrassed herself enough? Although Yi Qing Luo's words were too targeted, but every word and sentence she said was irrefutable. They were the students of the class of gods. They were the high and mighty class of gods. Did they need to waste their training time to humiliate a foreign class? This was not only a waste of everyone's time. It was also a disgrace to the class of gods. Yan Yu's face turned ashen when she was berated by Teacher Yi. She pursed her lips in grievance and lowered her head, not daring to say another word. The entire training ground fell into a dead silence. After Teacher Yi finished his roar, he turned his gaze towards Yi Qing Luo. In his mind, he was still thinking about how to reprimand Yi Qing Luo. But he saw Yi Qing Luo's slender brows slightly raised, her clear and charming eyes. Her face was like a bottomless cold lake, suffused with traces of chilliness. She smiled sweetly and said, Teacher Yi, since that student knows his mistake, we, the devil class, are not narrow-minded people. Let's forget about today's provocation. Don't waste everyone's special training time. Yi Qing Luo. Yan Yu was so infuriated that his entire body was trembling. That bitch. What right did that little slut have to say that he would forgive her? He even flattered himself, not a petty person. In other words, with a class of God's petty people. Teacher Yi was also rendered speechless by Yi Qing Luo's words. Seeing this, the other two teachers cleared their throats. Yes. Don't delay the special training. Put aside any personal matters. It's time for the special training now. Chapter 22-25. That was to say, no matter how much the devil class's students could withstand, they would undergo special training according to the physical qualities of the students in the class of gods. On this point, the high profound class 2 students who had come to the class of gods for special training also followed the same method. Of course, those students of high profound class 2 were carried out of the special training every day. In the eyes of the devil class students, a bright ray of light shot out. They were eager to try and smiled. All right, teachers, please try your best to train us. The students in the class of gods were infuriated by Yi Qing Luo's words. Hearing the devil class's students reply, their lips twitched in disdain. Now they agreed to it. Later on, they would have a good time. A bunch of waste. How dare they try to compare with the class of gods? Just as both parties were in formation, and Irua Pan suddenly thought of something as she weakly raised her arm and looked at Teacher Yi in embarrassment. That's right, Teacher, I have a question. Speak. Teacher Yi spat out one word expressionlessly. We will be staying in the training forest for the next month. Then, after the special training, where should we go? To clean ourselves up? And Irua Pan expressed that this question was very important to a lady. Teacher Yi's face sunk slightly. They hadn't even started the special training, and they were already thinking about how to clean themselves up after the training? If they were so fond of looking pretty, then why did they join the special training? Seeing Teacher Yi's displeased expression, Yi Qing Luo pulled Irua Pan over and whispered. Elder Yin Duan said that after the special training mission is over, we can return to the devil class. Although her voice was low, but Yan Yu, who was standing on the other side of the class of gods, heard it clearly. Immediately, he couldn't hold it in as he sneered. The special training mission is over? Do you think the class of gods is the same as your waste class's training method? Not only Yan Yu, the other students in the class of gods also looked at the devil class with ridicule. Even Teacher Yi sneered. Yan Yu glanced at Yi Qing Luo in disdain. You're right about one thing. Class of Gods is a cut above the rest. We are the most elite students in the academy. Not only do we have more resources than you, the training we have received has also far surpassed yours. The special training of our class of gods is not that easy to complete. To be honest, even the students in our class might not be able to complete the special training tasks given by the teachers on time, another student from the class of gods said, pretending to be kind. Previously, the elite students of High Profound Class 2 were all carried down from this training ground. For your devil class to be able to get first place this year, it was all because of luck. Do you really think that just because you got first place, you're invincible? As students of the class of gods, I would like to give you a piece of advice. There is always someone better out there, so don't be too arrogant. Ha ha ha! The students of the class of gods were full of disdain. Although the students of the class of gods couldn't be bothered to waste their breath on these useless people. But thinking of what Yi Qing Luo said earlier, it was indeed a slap on the class of gods' face. Hearing Yi Qing Luo mention that the special training mission had ended and she still had to return to devil class, they could not help but laugh. Even for them, they might not even have the strength to move after completing the special training tasks set by the teachers. This bunch of useless people actually fantasized that they could complete the special training mission. The students of High Profound Class 2 were carried down from the training ground, but it doesn't mean that we will be carried down. Chapter 22-26. Class of God students looked at Yi Qing Luo in disdain. At this point in time, she still wanted to be stubborn? Following that, Yi Qing Luo's next sentence made their faces turn green. You may not complete the mission on time, but it doesn't mean that we can't. Yi Qing Luo smiled faintly. Outstanding temperament, peerlessly beautiful appearance, plus the confidence when she said this. It was inexplicable, which made them believe that she would definitely be able to complete these special training missions. Yan Yu was the first to recover from Yi Qing Luo's aura. Her face was filled with emotions. Yi Qing Luo, I know you are very arrogant in the academy, but this is the class of God. Please restrain your arrogance. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and gave Yan Yu a meaningful look. From the moment Yan Yu called out her name, she had been suspicious. How did this Yan Yu student from the class of gods know her name? Moreover, he had a deep hatred for her. Now hearing Yan Yu talk about her in the academy, Yi Qing Luo roughly understood. Yan Yu should have left the class of God and heard about her. But class of God students had always felt that they were on top, a cut above others. In their eyes, students from other classes in the Heavenly Academy were lowly ants. Because of this, students from the class of God disdained to leave the class. As for the matters in the Heavenly Academy, they rarely went to understand. Only Zi Qianqian, who liked to be in the limelight and enjoyed the feeling of being surrounded by the stars, would make use of his identity as a student of the class of God to flaunt his prowess in the Heavenly Academy. Thinking of Zi Qianqian, Yi Qing Luo's gaze towards Yan Yu flickered slightly. This Yan Yu knew her and specially inquired about her matters in the academy. Could it be because of Zi Qianqian? Otherwise, why was he targeting her from the start? Ximing Han suddenly took small steps over. He took a look at the silent Tong Ziqing and lowered his voice to Yi Qing Luo. Student, on account of the little beauty, let me remind you that in the class of God, the masters love to train arrogant and disobedient people. So no matter how well you do in the Heavenly Academy, this is after all the class of God. Although his words were directed at Yi Qing Luo, however, his eyes were fixed on Tong Ziqing and did not move away. The reason why he reminded them was not because he cared about the consequences of the devil class. He was only worried. The arrogance of the devil class would only harm the little beauty. Yi Qing Luo smiled without saying a word. Back then, every student who entered the class of gods was extremely arrogant. In their eyes, they were favored by the heavens and possessed innate talent that surpassed ordinary people. That's why they were arrogant and prideful. However, after the training, whether it is their temperament or self-esteem, they will be completely eroded by the training. The fat teacher, who had been silent all this while, broke into a smile. The two chubby chunks of meat swayed back and forth. "I'm very curious, after a month, how much of your arrogance has remained." Yi-Ching Luo's brows rose as her long and narrow eyes sparkled with brilliant luster. For some reason, her body emitted a chilling aura, as if it could freeze everything in the surroundings into frost. She smiled sweetly and charmingly, as if she was in a dream. "We shall wait and see." The scene was once again silent. The gazes of the three masters all fell on the students of the devil class. Those students from the class of God were also stunned by the aura released by Yi-Ching Luo. Wasn't this devil class student a little too arrogant? Chapter 22-27. Was it the arrogance of overconfidence, or was it the arrogance of ability? All the answers would be revealed in the special training. The special training to raise one's ability was still the same, no matter if it was to raise the profound grade or the profound heart jade grade or whatever. The core of the special training was still the foundation. Hence, under the nonsense of the devil class, Fatty Teacher's first order was to carry a heavy load and run 50 kilometers. This made the students in class of God's expressions turn ugly. Usually, their training program was only 30 kilometers of cross-country with weights. Now, there was an additional 20 kilometers for no reason. Apparently, it was because of Devil Class's challenge which caused everyone to suffer. The students in Class of God had grievances in their hearts, but they didn't dare to show it. Nor could they complain about being tired. This was a matter of pride for the Class of God. But when they looked towards Devil Class's side, the 11 of them sat calmly as they warmed up. They didn't panic at all because of the number 50 kilometers. As though they were not running 50 kilometers, but 5 kilometers. The students of the Class of Gods were instantly stimulated. Could this bunch of Devil Class's students be so useless that they didn't even know how far 50 kilometers was? Did they know what 50 kilometers meant? And it was carrying weights. A pile of gravity belts was thrown in front of them. Fatty Teacher stared at Devil Class's students without blinking. Each gravity belt is 20 kilograms. Today is Devil Class's first time participating in the special training. Just tie one for each of your hands and legs. 20 kilograms for one for each of the 4 limbs. That was 80 kilograms, which was equivalent to 160 caddies. To the students of the Devil Class, these were nothing much. After all, when they were training in Yi-Ching Luo's hands, he had gone through special training that was even more difficult than this. Towards Fatty Teacher's request, they naturally didn't panic. Let them try to be brave. Yen Yu snorted in disdain as she speedily tied the gravity belts and walked to the side of the training ground, queuing up for Fatty Teacher's orders. After Si Minghan tied the gravity belts, he walked to Tong Ziqing. "Little beauty, if you can't run anymore, come look for me. I can carry you." As he spoke, he even raised his eyebrows at Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing's face was cold. She glanced at him and then lowered her head to concentrate on tying the gravity belt. She didn't even have the mood to answer him. Si Minghan was not discouraged. Instead, he smiled brightly and squatted down. "I mean it. A 50-kilometer race is not good for a woman's body. Even if you can last until the end, I can't bear to let you finish the race. I will wait for you at the front." Tong Ziqing still didn't pay attention to him. Her face remained cold. "Ah, Jean, that lad seems to really care about our Ziqing." Yi-Ching Luo intentionally poked Long Yunjan's shoulder, indicating him to look towards Tong Ziqing's direction. She didn't suspect that Si Minghan had a motive for getting close to Tong Ziqing. It could be seen that Si Minghan's feelings for Tong Ziqing were sincere. In front of others, he looked lazy and sloppy, but in front of Tong Ziqing, he was serious. Love at first sight, what boundless youth! Long Yunjan merely shot a glance at Tong Ziqing's direction and turned his head over, looking at the gravity belt tied around Yi Qing Luo's wrist.